And welcome in. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, and a happy Halloween to everyone. But it's a very special Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. And yes, we are off to a very early start this morning, and I apologize. I still have the allergies lingering in my voice. I promise I've tested multiple times. It is not the other thing. I want to make that abundantly clear because we got guests in studio today. One of which, we've done this show many times. Patrick, do you have any idea how many of these we've done over the years?
I don't know how many, but my guess is it's probably 6 out of the last 7 years.
Yeah, we didn't do it in 2020.
Except
right?
for the one year.
That wasn't much of an option. This is our annual college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens, our college hoops guru, is in studio with us today, and we're going to have the area's coaches joining us throughout today's show. We kick things off right out of the gate. We welcome in the head coach of the Loyola Greyhounds. It is great to see him here. He is Coach Tavaras Hardy, and he's first on the hot seat. Coach, thank you so much for stopping by to see us. You are probably the tallest coach that will be joining us in studio, so we're going to have to adjust the camera a couple times a day. But it's great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming in.
Great to see you all as well. I thought Coach Skerry had me by a couple inches.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, no.
You beat me to the joke.
Yeah,
the wheels were turning there.
No,
so.
not quite. Not quite. It's great to see. You know what? I feel like I want to do this right out of the chute. I caught up with one of your former players recently. Mm-hmm. And, I've gotten to know you a good bit over the years, done some of your games, and you've been in here every year with Patrick and I. And I just wondered if there was maybe something that we didn't know about you, that, how you tick and why it is that you've been able to be successful at this. And so I was asking, again, a former player of yours, is there something that we should know about Coach Hardy that might help explain him? And I just want you to hear this. This is what I got back.
I've heard he's not a great golfer. So, you gotta let him know. I've heard he can't break 100.
Wow. That is, boy, that's really.
It's close.
Yeah.
I've gotten better. I had a nice run where I was in the 90s. And when I'm in the 90s, I am happy. So he's actually right. If that's not great, that's me.
So you just picked up golf in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was strictly because of COVID. They wouldn't let us do much. I love my family. I had a great time being home with the 4 kids and my wife all the time, but you just need something. We needed something at that moment, and for me it was golf. I didn't own clubs, so bought them, never took any lessons, just got out there and started playing, and it's been fun. I've got a chance to travel to some cool places and play some great courses and really meet some awesome people in the Baltimore community and beyond.
So that, of course, was the voice of Santi Aldama. Have you played with Santi specifically?
No, he just picked it up as well.
Okay, so he's talking smack when really he's probably not any better.
He's not any better, but draft the day before the draft, we were out in Spain in Gran Canaria, and he actually hosted us for a lunch on a golf course. And I wanted to play it so bad. I didn't have my clubs, but the addiction was real at the time. But he's picking it up as well. I got to get him out there in the off season.
That's cool. That's very cool. He is Tavaras Hardy. He's with us here in studio. Coach, I promise we will talk basketball. I wanted to bring up, because Santi is joining us on the show tomorrow, seeing him move into the starting lineup this year, what that means for you, for obviously the first round pick, that's a really big deal. Yeah. But now, getting in there and getting the minutes that he's getting, what has that meant to you?
No, it's fantastic. I mean, we all know draft night, there were a lot of people surprised hearing his name called, but we weren't, and the Grizzlies weren't. Obviously, they to take him in the first round, it meant they really believed in him, and he's proven them right. And it's with his work ethic, and he just has tremendous upside. His talent. He's 7 feet. He can dribble, pass, and shoot. From our perspective, we allowed him to do that here. We helped him develop with that, and that was one of the promises we made to him and his people as we were recruiting him. And so, it's awesome to be able to see that everything that we told him could happen from our perspective is coming to fruition.
As you head into this season, obviously you're replacing another pretty notable name on the roster, Cam Spencer. But overall, there's a fair bit of continuity there too. How do you feel overall about what you have coming back, considering obviously there's a guy that averaged almost 19 a game that's not, but there's just about everything else is.
No, I mean, it would be really cool if our senior classes included Santi Aldama and Cam Spencer, 2 guys that we recruited and would be seniors. But at the same time, if it wasn't for COVID, Jalen Andrews wouldn't be back. Kenny Jones wouldn't be back. And so to have those two veterans who are extremely experienced back on our roster this year, I tell those guys we're really thankful for them because they could have transferred, in today's culture. Jalen averaged 13, 14 points per game. Power conference schools would have taken him, and he chose to come back to Loyola. So I appreciate him for that, and we're going to really need those guys to lead our young guys because after that, because we did lose those two in the senior class, we get really young. We got Golden DK, but then we have 10 freshmen and sophomores that we expect to play. And so that's a young group that's going to have to grow and develop, but they're talented, and I think they'll get there.
Tavaras Hardy, the head coach of Loyola, is in studio with us. You mentioned those sophomores, and I've seen a good bit of the Illiches, and in moments you're like, man, these dudes, they've got everything, right? Like the skill set is entirely there. And maybe I'll throw Golden in there as well, who, like, again, in moments you see just sort of brilliance from it. For this team to take that step back forward and compete again for the Patriot League title, those guys in the front court, how important is it to see that consistent kind of next step from that group for you guys to make that jump and be right back in the Patriot League contention?
Yeah, it's critical. We need, and I tell Golden all the time, we need you to be that dominant force that we recruited, and he wants to be. So let's go out there and be that, because between Golden, Alonzo Fowre, and as you mentioned, Milos and Velko, that's a pretty big front line. And so we got to be able to use that, take advantage of it, and let those guys kind of become that dominant force collectively. And if they can do that, then, the sky's the limit for this team.
You mentioned Alonzo, and that was one of the guys I wanted to ask about with some of the reserves from last year that I'm guessing you're looking for a little bit more out of, whether that's a Nick Marshall, somebody of that ilk. How are some of those younger guys kind of emerging, and do you see a guy in particular you think can take a pretty big leap here year over year?
Yeah, that group's been a little banged up, to be honest with you all. This summer and fall hasn't been easy for that group. I think Chris Kazimka is going to be able to give us some really solid minutes. He's developing in a sort of a backup combo guard spot. So I'm looking forward to him. David Brown has really stepped up. He's going to compete for a starting spot. He's improved his overall game. His shooting's been better. He just plays so hard. He's such a good kid. So those two, I would say, out of that class have shown the most recently. Some of the other guys have been a little more banged up, but really looking forward to getting those guys back healthy, because there's some talent in there with Milos and Velko and Nick Marshall.
Is there a freshman that you're already seeing that you're saying, like, look, this guy, it's very clear, is going to be immediately in the mix minutes-wise?
Absolutely. Deion Perry, the point guard from Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah, right?
Yeah. No, he's going to start for us at point guard. He's going to allow us to move Kenny Jones over, which should, help take away some of the loss of Cam, having Kenny at the two. Obviously he didn't average 19 a game, but Kenny was able to make some good shots for us, and that'll help us. I think Isaiah Alexander is growing in his role. I think you're going to watch that kid get better and better now. As all freshmen, he's going to have some ups and downs, as well as Dion. But I think Isaiah, by the time we get in a Patriot League play, is going to really be ready to go for us. Yeah. And then last one's Tyson Commander, who came on late. He missed the summer, but when you talk about explosive athlete, he's just getting his feet wet. Look for him to grow throughout the year as well.
And another local kid, John Carroll, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you nervous when you hand over a point guard job to a freshman? Like I feel like that. I don't know. Is there trepidation at all?
Having Kenny on the floor with him really helps. There's there's moments in practice where I have Kenny and Chris and Dion all together. And at the end of the day, I tell Dion, with our offense, once we get in the half court, everybody can make plays. And so he can come off the ball when he wants and lighten the load a little bit. But it is hard for a freshman. But, he was the best point guard in the city last year, and maybe the best player in the city last year. And, I told him, let's be that now, be that in the Patriot League.
When you have enough of a group coming back like you do, obviously it's not the entire group, but you had a season where I'm sure once you got into late January, you were feeling pretty good, and things just kind of unraveled from there. How did you kind of evaluate that, and how did those guys evaluate that as they move forward in their careers into this season?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you got to trust the work you're putting in, really believe in yourself and believe in your teammates, believe in the system. So we really dug back into our culture, the values that we stress, and try to use that to catapult, just everything that we do from a off-season standpoint. And so we really dug back into style of play. We dug back into 5 guys working together to help each other score. Felt like last year there was a lot of times where we tried to take it upon ourselves to, will us to victory, and we got to use each other. That's the whole basis of how we play offensively and defensively, and we really tried to emphasize that and train that more this summer and fall and even spring.
Talk about some of the players you lost. Coach Tavaras Hardy from Loyola, first up with us in this year's college basketball preview. I know another big change is on the coaching staff, as Evo got a great opportunity to go out to UCLA, and I imagine that's got to be pretty bittersweet for you because, it's a great opportunity, but he had done a lot of good things here, clearly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's all sweet in terms of, it's natural progression for him.
Yep.
And he's earned it. You don't see that stuff. That's one of the things I am proud of with this group since I've been here. You don't see too many first-round draft picks. You don't see too many assistant coaches leaving to go to UCLA. That's a top 5 program. They'll be in contention for the Final Four this year, and he's already hit the ground running, recruiting well. So, no, really happy for him. I tell him as we win, and fully plan to win this year, as we win, he'll look at it and feel just as much a part of it as we do, even though he's not here. He left his mark, and that's what you want to do. Every job I left as an assistant coach, I always want to look back and feel like I left my mark. And he certainly has for Loyola, and we're eternally grateful for.
You mentioned Jalen Andrews really right for the jump on this, but just a little bit more on him, just because he is as experienced as he is for you. He has spent as much time in your system as he has. How valuable is he going to be for this particular team? And is the fact that he already is a guy that you've counted on a lot make it a little bit easier to kind of say, this is a guy we can build around for this year and can handle a good chunk of the load, and you know it already?
No, for sure. I mean, Jalen was the first recruit that I saw, evaluated, liked, and signed when I got the job. And the fact that I still have him going into year 5 is awesome. The main thing for Jalen, what I tell him all the time is impacting winning is what you need to be thinking about. It's not about how many points you score. It's not about who gives you the accolades. Like, how do you impact winning on a day-to-day basis? And I want him to just, live that because it's so much more he can do for us, whether it is putting the ball in the hole or making sure our young guys are feeling confident and comfortable, or getting us an extra possession, or locking down another team's best defender. Like, whatever it takes to win, that's what I want him to be locked in on. And he'll have it'll make his 5th-year experience extremely worth it. And he'll think about it the rest of his life as how he won his last time out at Loyola.
I'll give this generically to every coach that comes in here today. Coach, blank is the difference if Loyola is going to be able to compete to win the Patriot League.
Shooting.
Okay.
I really believe we have the best potential shooting team we've had since I've been here. But guys they're young, and so they got to learn where their shots are coming from. And then they got to step up and just bang them. I don't sub on mistakes. I don't sub on missed shots. I don't even talk about it, really. So they got the green light, every one of them. Step up, shoot with confidence, and because they're capable.
Do you think there's going to be an alpha that steps, obviously we talk about losing Cam. Like, he was the guy, right, in those moments. Do you feel like there is a player that is going to step in to be that guy, or it's more of a committee situation?
As I think about, again, try not to daydream too much, but it's human nature. And you start to think about what it would take to be successful, to win a championship, cut down the nets. That happens as coaches. Any of us that says it doesn't, it's a lie. We do want to focus on the process, so we can't get carried away with it. But when I think about this group and what it would take to cut down the nets, it really is a collective effort. We don't have that alpha. I think some guys may want to be that, and that's not really what this group is about. And I think once we figure that out and put that together on the court, Kenny Jones has been playing at a higher level than he has been playing, but I don't think he needs to lead us in scoring for us to be successful. I think we need to be one of those 14, 13, 12, 11 type, across the board teams, and we can be really successful that way. That way, if one person isn't going, somebody else can step up and take the load that night. And I really believe that's how this group is going to be.
Is there any benefit to knowing, and I'm not sure if you even felt this way, but I think sometimes people say, well, you get into games and maybe everybody's just looking around and waiting for Cam to go be Superman, right?
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to knowing, hey, you can't wait around for that this year? That's not coming.
Yeah, it's going to have to be learned, but I do think there is an advantage to that.
Yeah.
Our system is, we've had the Patriot League leading scorer all 4 years that I've been here. Andrew Kostecka 2 years, Santi, and then Cam. We don't need that to be successful, right? I think a collective effort, a balance, that's what our offense is really designed for. There's no difference in opportunities that the forward on the left side, which was Andrew Kostecka, and the forward on the right side, there's no difference in opportunities. Andrew is just capable of doing more, right? And so I want a collective group of guys that are capable of doing everything. Then you make the right reads, you make the right decisions, you care about your teammates, you care about winning, and then it'll all balance itself out.
I want to hang on a second, because I just found out somebody's listening this morning. You guys are playing next Monday out at DePaul, all right?
Bino?
I need you to whoop Bino's ass for
Yeah,
me,
Bino's
right?
in the building.
Bino checked in this one. That's my guy. I love Bino, of course. But you're going to have to go out there and whoop some DePaul ass. So,
Yeah. Bino's great.
I actually was going to bring up the idea. I know you went out to Chicago State a couple years ago, but to be able to start a season out there, you probably got to feel pretty good that opportunity to head back home.
Yeah, it's awesome. I had such a fun time coaching that game at Chicago State. I can't remember the exact number, but tons of family and friends that came. We had a very nice cheering section. We'll have the same at DePaul, but obviously this is a tougher game. No offense to Chicago State, but DePaul and what they're building. Those guys are doing a great job. Not just Bino, Paris Parham. They're recruiting at a really high level, and so we're gonna have to deal with their length, their athleticism. It's year 2. If we were fully healthy and had everything going, I think we put up a show this year. I told our guys, I said, we're not going in there with any false sense of hope. We're gonna battle. We're gonna compete. But if they play well, it's gonna be long. It's gonna be hard for us. So, if we play great and they don't play as well, then maybe we can give it a shot. But it's one of those things where night in and night out, our guys want to compete. They want to develop. They want to get better. And so, I'm excited for this opportunity. We got a lot of great people coming out to the game. Some business leaders in Chicago that I had previous relationships with. The president of DePaul actually has a child that goes to Loyola.
Oh, wow.
Which is an awesome deal. So we might have some access to some things that we might not have normally had access to.
It's a nice little trip that you make. They're like, wow, you guys put you up in the nice hotel.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice.
Trip. Look at how that worked out. Coach, obviously, so we mentioned it starts for real next Monday night, but you guys are hosting a cool exhibition tomorrow night for people in this area. You're going to bring Stevenson in to play a game. I know a lot of teams are kind of getting away from exhibitions at this point, like trying to go more of the – I know you played one of the scrimmages against Morgan State this weekend, but why still do the exhibition? What's the value of this for you guys?
No, it's really twofold. Number one, like you said, for the fans – to be able to play a local team. We played Hopkins a few times, just giving them a chance to see, a smaller school. We're not allowed to play another D1 school in this type of game. So just being able to see 2 local schools that don't normally compete against each other compete. Sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking as we're trying to get our guys going. So for the fans is one piece. And then for us, especially with such a young team, we want to make sure that we get our guys some experience in live action in front of some folks. So that the first time they're not playing in front of fans is in Chicago, so they'll be able to see some things. But it's always challenging. I remember my 2 exhibition games as a freshman I think I had 16 points in the first game and 15 in the second, or vice versa. And I thought, all this is great.
You're good, right? It's easy now, yeah.
And then somebody said, well, that doesn't count on your scoring average, right?
Now, wait a second. Would this have been back in the day when you guys would have been playing like Athletes in Action?
California All-Stars.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we played them, and we played like Lithuania Lita.
Okay. That's pretty good competition, actually.
Yeah, I don't think they sent their top guys.
All right, never mind.
But it was, it was all good. Good experience. But you do, as coaches, you're a little nervous because you don't want anybody to do anything crazy. And
sure.
But I think for this group, so we did just have that scrimmage against Morgan. It was just this weekend. This is later than normal, in terms of, we'd like to get these more mid-October, but this group needed a little more time, and so playing tomorrow, we got a lot of kinks to work through, and I'm just being honest with you all. Like, it's a team that is still trying to figure some things out, and we'll get there though.
Well, you're literally telling that to the guy who's scouting you right now, who's listening to the interview this morning.
It is what it is, Bino.
Tomorrow night, again, you can go see the Greyhounds as they take on Stevenson at Reitz Arena. And then the first regular season home game will be on November 13th when they bring in Brown. And that's a doubleheader with the women as well. And the Ravens are off that day. They're on bye that weekend. So great opportunity to come out and check out some great hoops on Sunday the 13th.
Absolutely.
Coach Tavaras Hardy, so good to see you, my friend.
All right, you as well.
We wish you well on continuing to break 100. I gave up on it some time ago because it was just not happening for me.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, I know my limits. It ain't going to be a thing. But we wish you well on that, and even better this season. We'll be seeing you out there. Thanks for stopping by. And
thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Patrick.
That's Tavaras Hardy from Loyola. We will take our first break of the day. We'll come back in, set up the rest of the show. Kevin Brodus from Morgan State will be next up on the hot seat. Oh, look at that. He's already here. So we can keep things moving right along. It's our college basketball preview show, Glenn Clark Radio.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. The Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com and get $100 off on your pre-order when you use the promo code TAILGATE. That's ginsugrills.com. Reserve yours today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, New Maryland basketball coach Kevin Willard sits down with Stan Charles and Glenn Clark to discuss the situation he inherited in College Park and how he plans to get the program turned around. Also, inside, we introduce you to men's and women's college basketball players from all of the teams in the area. And Bo Smoka profiles Ravens receiver Devin Duvernay. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
If you can't listen or watch live, you can subscribe to the show via Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review while you're there. Or, if lying isn't your thing, we'll take a 3.5-star review too.
All right, we continue on our college basketball preview edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick Stevens is in studio with us today. Today's show is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. We love Glory Days Grill around here. The Oktoberfest menu is still available, and $6.99 appetizers are also available after 9 p.m. every day at Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website for you to get your order in. GloryDaysGrill.com. Joining us now here in studio, he's actually checking out. There's a good story about Malik Miller in that print issue of Press Box, which you've got in front of you. He is the head coach of the Bears. Coach Kevin Brodus is in studio with us. Coach, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here today.
Absolutely. So you were just chatting with Tavaras on the way out. You guys, how'd that go this weekend? I heard you guys whoop their asses. That's the way that I heard. No,
that's not true about whooping nobody's ass. We played well though. We really defended. You know, it was a good outing for us. We just got to keep learning and building on. You know, that's what these not exhibition but scrimmages are for. They're not about winning and losing. But at the end of the day, you want to win, but it's about building and getting better. And like this morning, we went in and watched film with the guys and showed them. And they were like eyes open, like, wow, we could have really, but we didn't. So we did what we were supposed to do. Now we got to get better and now it really counts starting 7 days from now.
You guys had a really strong finish to the season a year ago, right? You closed really well. Obviously fell short in the MAAC tournament. But how do you build off of that? What were you guys doing right down the stretch last season that you put together a really good win streak, and how do you carry that into this year?
We started defending. And, I think we cut the rotation down at that point. So guys got used to playing together, long minutes, and doing things the right way. And we haven't gotten a solid rotation. We're trying to play everybody in the preseason, but now it's time. It's nuts and bolts time. So now we'll cut it down. And as long as we're defending like we have been so far this year, we got a chance to win. I always tell the people around the program, we may be less talented, but we're a better team, if that makes any sense, because guys are buying in and doing the things they're supposed to. And I tell you, when you have leaders like Malik and Isaiah Burke, you have a chance. You have a chance. So, and then we had a big kid to come along that's really been good for us. I think both ends of the court, Lewis Jokin, he's been incredible for us. So I like what we have. So we just got to put it all together, and hopefully we get lucky and we win some of these early games.
You brought up the idea of last year's rotation, and I think it's probably fair to say that was a little unwieldy at times last year, trying to find enough minutes to keep so many people happy. People like me like to talk about depth a lot. Can depth be overrated a little bit sometimes just because of the headaches that trying to play 11 and 12 guys at a time?
It depends on your team. Depth is not overrated. It's good when you have really good players and they buy into their roles. For us, injuries hurt us, and then, we had to cut the rotation. When we went to the CIT, we played with 8 players, maybe 7 or 8 scholarship players, and, we didn't make any excuses. We had it down to one possession, and we gave it away, and they won by 5. But you just have to have the right combination. Depth is a good thing to have, especially early on, because you can't foresee what's going to happen with injuries or what have you. But I would love to have that, but this year I'm going in with a different mindset. I'm going to play the guys that's going to play together, play smart, and play hard.
Along those lines, Malik is a guy that, we mentioned a little bit earlier, but that's a guy that's played smart and played hard. pretty much from the second he walked onto campus. What stands out about him as he heads into his 5th year, as to what more he can do, and just how significant has he been for you in building this program?
He's been very significant. What more is he can bring these young guys along very fast. I mean, his resilience. I mean, he works hard every day, comes to work with a lunch pail, comes with a hard hat, and he teaches these guys, hey, you can do it. You can fight through it, the fatigue. You can get the extra rebound. You can make the extra pass. I mean, Malik he's been like a coach on the floor, and he's been really good. He's even talking more now. So, and Isaiah's talking more now. So, I like I like the way these guys are going about their business. And I'm gonna keep saying it. Yes, we are less talented. Yes, but this team is a better team.
Interesting. He is Coach Kevin Brodus from Morgan State. He's with us here in studio. You're a veteran team for the most part, right? Like, it seems like you've got a little bit more experience than some of the guys we're going to be talking to. You mentioned guys that are starting to talk a little bit, right? Malik, Isaiah. How much is that paying off, the amount of experience that you have? Do you already see, like, that can be a significant difference for this team this season?
It's paying off. I mean, we brought in a kid, Lewis, joking. He talks more than anybody. I think he talks in his sleep, but he talks. The new guys are they gel together. They work hard together, and they seem. It's all about, can you play together? You don't have to necessarily like someone. You got to respect them and play hard and play together. And these guys are really doing that. And it starts with Malik, and all the way down to our 12th, 13th guy.
Joachim is the transfer from Radford, correct?
Yes, he was at Radford and VCU early on in his career. About 6'9.5", about 250. I mean, he's been really good for us.
Somebody that you had eyed and said, this is a dude that can make a difference.
I didn't know he could make this much of a difference,
okay,
to be honest with you.
Okay.
Thought big body. He had some times early in his career where he showed promise, and he's come to us with, he's been a difference maker so far.
Huge.
Difference maker.
Point guard situation. Obviously, you guys had Seventh Woods and Sherwin Devonish last year. How has that situation kind of sorted itself out so far in the preseason, maybe with guys like Daquan Copeland and Rob Lawson?
Point guard by committee. You got Daquan, the 6'5" point guard that he's more of a share the game type guy, gets in the lane, he knows how to kick. And then you have Rob Lawson, probably one of our fastest guys on the team, that he just makes things happen. I mean, he guards you from 94 feet. He's really really good. And then we got a guy, Cam Hobbs, that's came from Division II, that's like really good, really, really good. And I'm happy with all of them. Last year we got caught up, and this is the thing, you got to always manage your expectations. I got caught up in the name 7 because I recruited him hard out of high school when he went to North Carolina over Georgetown. But sometimes it's not always the right fit. Guys come in trying to be more than what the program need him to be, and he just was hurt most of the year. And Sherwin was solid for us. He was solid. He decided he wanted to move on. He went on to a Division II school in Oklahoma, and he's doing well. So I like the guys that we have. I always say, like the saying is, love the one that loves you. Love the one you're with. And I love these guys that we got because they're putting forth the effort that we need.
Coach, you arrived at Morgan, and then the world was flipped upside down over the next couple of years, and there was a lot of success in them. I mean, runs to play for a MAAC title, right? Like you've had a lot of winning. Do you feel like now, 4th year, you've gotten to a place, the world has settled down a little bit, you've gotten more of a handle of the location and what it is that's going on here, that this is a program that's ready to take that next step and ready to get back to compete for a MAAC title?
I think we are. I think we're ready to take the next step. I think we're ready to compete for the championship. We just got to stay healthy. We need some luck. We need some blessings. I mean, I think we have the right guys at the right positions and a lot of multi-talented guys that can do different things. I think this team is built off of grit, tough defense, and hopefully we can score enough points to win many games. But, this is the first time since I've been here our defense has been this far ahead early on. It's usually our offense. We usually can score a lot of points. We normally do. We're usually in the top half of the league, but our defense has been really good. Like Tavaras probably told you guys, I mean, we defend 94 feet. Whether we're trapping or just straight man-to-man, our guys are defending, and that's a plus for us. Because a lot of times when you have names and, you know, they think they're better than the defensive part, they just want the scoring part. This team has been, you know, dedicated to the defensive end. They put the time in and, you know, the effort in to be a good defensive team.
You guys were able to participate in a couple really nifty events last year. The Chris Paul event out in Phoenix, the game against Howard tied in with the NBA All-Star game. This year you're playing Delaware State up in Newark. How important is it for you as a program, and how neat is it to be able to be involved in these HBCU showcase type of games?
It's very important because they identified us. They asked us to play in it. We didn't go and ask them. And you know, we split in the Chris Paul tournament, and we didn't do as well at the NBA All-Star. And we should have, you know, we started out, we was up big, and we just fell apart. And that's a part of growth. And I think now we're ready to, you know, control our own destiny. And going to the Michael B. Jordan event in New Jersey this year is big for us. It's big for our brand. It's big for the university. Anytime you can get on national TV, that's good for your university. And especially when you get on national TV and show well, it's really good for your university. Look at Dion down at Jackson State. He has taken that program to another level. And that's not to say he's the only one can do it. Everyone can do it. You just got to put the time and the energy in. He does a hell of a job of selling. You know, all of us are not salesmen like Dion, but that's why they call him Prime. I mean, he is Prime, and their program is Prime right now. To have college game day, that's big, and we like to bring all that to Morgan.
I was
going to
say that's what we start the campaign for that now, right?
Oh, yeah.
To bring the basketball game day crew to Morgan State.
No
right?
doubt about it. Yeah, Big Monday. Let's do Big Monday at Morgan. You know, been a part of a few of those. So
Coach, I've given the same question to everybody all morning. The biggest difference, blank, is the difference if Morgan State's going to be able to make a run towards a MEAC title.
That's a loaded question. It's deep. Who is the difference? Or
more specifically, what do you if we do this?
We keep defending the way we're defending, and we figure out our offense to score points. We will make a run at the MEAC championships. The
confidence you speak in your defense is really it's
changed night and day from when I first got here to me so far. Now we can't lose sight. We can't start off and then if we get a few wins, we can't go away from it. I mean, we got to be about that grit, and that's what our guys have been. But if we defend, they always say defense win championships. I don't want to sound cliche. You know what I'm saying?
Cliche, yeah, I get it, yeah.
But that's the truth. Defense win championships, and right now that's what we're building on. And if we can, you know, get some guys that can put the ball in the hole, we'll be fine.
I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously.
Oh, yeah, very easy. And if you look at our schedule, it's going to be tough. You know, we go to Xavier, VCU,
right,
Bowling Green, Akron,
Arizona.
I mean, we got a tough road ahead of us, you know, and we look forward to it. This is what these young men go to UMBC. Mm-hmm. You know, these young men, they look forward to stuff like that. Then we go out to Jamaica and playing that big classic. We got Utah Valley State. You know, I've played against them a few times in either Queens or Green Bay. So we got a tough road. We're up for the challenge. We're ready for it. You know, we just, hey, let's throw it up and let's play.
That's some serious globetrotting you're doing there, going from Jamaica to L.A.
And we go to Loyola Marymount. You know, we played them a few years ago out there, and we had some success. So I know they're waiting on that, and their best player's still there.
I know you talked to us last year when we talked about the All-Star event. You were like, hey, man, distractions. You know, in a way, I almost kind of don't want the guys participating in that event. When you put together a schedule like this with those many things, how much do you have to be aware of the same thing? Of you're going out to L.A., you're going to Jamaica. Like, how much do you have to talk to those guys about those types of distractions?
Well,
it's clearly not the All-Star game. I am aware of that.
This is totally different than the All-Star game. And everything that you could imagine, like, you know, when you're practicing, you have Draymond Green coming through, and you have Ja Morant?
Yeah.
Came to our locker room, and Steph.
Wow.
and CP3, all those guys came in the locker room. I mean, just the wow factor with our guys and coaches, you get sidetracked, and it's a different beast. But when you go into these other tournaments, you're focused. We went to Bahamas my first year. We didn't win a game, but we were in every game but one, other than Liberty. But other than that, we were in every game, had a chance to win 3 games. So we'll be ready. And we just got to handle the task this year and take it to the top. These guys, that's what they wanted. Like, we're trying to put together a summer tour that we'll take this summer, out of the country, abroad. And it'd be good for these young men, just show them about life and how they play overseas, abroad. You guys got these dreams and aspirations. If they can't play in the NBA, maybe they can play overseas. So we're building the program.
No doubt.
We're building the program.
It gets underway next Monday night at Xavier, and then the first opportunity for you to see the Bears this season is a week from Thursday when they host Penn State Allegheny at Hill Fieldhouse. Coach Kevin Brodus, great to see you, sir.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you so much
for
for stopping in and hanging out with
Appreciate
us again this year.
Thank you.
He is the head coach of the Morgan State Bears, Kevin Brodus, with us here on our college basketball preview. All right, we're going to get a minute here to reset before Pat Skerry comes in and joins us. We'll have Patrick talk up generically a few other things in the world of college basketball that we need to know going into this season, so we'll do that next. And the head coach of Towson, Pat Skerry, will join us as we continue. It's our college basketball preview show, Glenn Clark Radio.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is now running. It's one of their most popular seasonal menus all year. It features the chicken schnitzel, the Oktoberfest brewer's platter, the brewer's sausage sandwich, the Bavarian burger with a pretzel bun, the cheddar ale soup, the slam dunk pretzels, and the apple cobbler. All of these meals pair well with Oktoberfest beers and Angry Orchard on draft. Dine in or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and pick up your favorites to take home. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. Tune in to Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday at 11:40 a.m. And if you really have nothing better to do, keep listening to this show too.
Hey, online sports betting will be starting in Maryland in the next few weeks, and PressBox is your source for the best offers and sign-up incentives. Starting now, you can get a $100 pre-registration credit from our friends at FanDuel by going to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. The $100 credit is in addition to the new user promo you will get when they go live. That's PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now to get your $100 FanDuel pre-registration bonus credit. PressBoxOnline.com/offers. It is Glenn Clark Radio, an early start today. If you're like, hey, what the heck is going on? We started at 9 a.m. this morning. Thanks already to Kevin Brodus from Morgan State for stopping by, as well as Tavaras Hardy from Loyola. Pat Skerry from Towson will be joining us in just a couple of minutes. Patrick Stevens, of course, Washington Post and USA Lacrosse Magazine, at Discourse on Twitter. He is back in studio. First of all, it's good to see you, sir. It's been a little while.
It has been. It's good to see you.
Last time I saw you, I was getting blasted by the folks.
We were at a baseball game.
Yeah, run the cameras at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. They were putting me out there, and I was reading a book at a baseball game, and they were having some fun with it.
The real surprise is that between the two of us, I wasn't the one reading the book.
That is a strong fact. Let's just talk. Let's cover a couple of things here while we have a minute. One, we've already talked to two coaches. Normally when we do this, I like to give you an opportunity to give your thumbnails on those programs. So the first two teams that we've seen so far, Loyola, Morgan State, what are your thumbnails on those two teams?
Well, I think Tavaras Hardy is wisely kind of managing expectations at this point. And I think that for the Greyhounds, the first month and a half of the season could be a bit bumpy as they kind of figure things out. Now, they do have some pieces. You know, they still have the Illiches. They still have Jalen Andrews. They still have Kenny Jones. So I don't necessarily view that as a team that's going to go finish 8th or 9th in the Patriot League. I think there's a core there that can put them right in the middle of the pack. I don't know if their ceiling is as high as it was last year. It certainly isn't as high without having Cam Spencer playing for them as opposed to playing up at Rutgers right now. But overall, you know, I think that's a program that has been on a decent trajectory between making the run to the title game a couple years ago, being around 500, and not having to deal with the opening day of the Patriot League tournament for the first time last year. Do I think they can be vastly better? Probably not. I think it's probably going to be a mid-pack team. And if they can just find if they can avoid the sort of tailspin that they had toward the end of last year. I mean, they were not a very good team in February. They picked up a couple victories that were like, oh, maybe they can do something. And then it just did not work out, which was the opposite of the way the season went the year before. Obviously started late and all that. But I do think that Loyola is a team that can be more interesting as the year goes along, but I would temper expectations certainly for the early stages of the season. Morgan State, look, I think, first of all, anybody in the MAAC not named Norfolk State, which brings back 5 starters from a team that won the league tournament last year, it's gonna be an uphill battle. And I don't say that in any sort of disrespectful way, because I think Morgan State can be quite good. I love Malik Miller as a player. That dude just plays so hard. He is a rebounding savant at 6'4", always finding his way into things. You don't have to run any plays for him because he finds a way to get 3 putbacks every game. And Louis Joncom is a guy that from talking to Kevin Brodus over the summer, he was excited then, and he sounds even more excited now about what's going to happen. I do think that being able to hang your hat on defense is a really good sign, particularly in that league. Because I think between the fact that you've got a couple teams at the bottom that are really in rebuilding phases and some teams in the middle that I think it's fair to say are probably a little more erratic at the defensive end. If you have that going for you, you can probably play yourself into the top 2 or 3 in that league. So, Morgan with Norfolk and NC Central, and Howard too. I think Howard is a skilled offensive team for sure. I don't know if defensively they'll quite get there, but they've got some interesting pieces at the offensive end. I certainly expect to see Morgan in the top half of that league. But as Kevin suggested, it's not going to be an easy haul getting to MAAC play this year. Now, they play the 14 league games, and the Michael Jordan Classic up in Newark is actually against a MAAC team, but it's not a conference. It is not a conference game. They actually play Delaware State back-to-back weekends, and the second one is
kind of funny.
Basically, the MAAC kept the bye weekend that they had
that
they built in for COVID, in part because there's only 8 teams now, so they're trying to spread the games out as best they can. So it actually gave the opportunity for them to schedule that extra game and not wind up having a gap of a dozen or so days in the middle of the season. So I do happen to think that they'll be one of the better teams in the MEAC, but it's going to be tough for them to dislodge Norfolk State. Of course, you think back to last season when they were playing well at the end of the year. That kind of started off with a victory over Norfolk State. They won 5 in a row, and they beat Norfolk by 11 at home, lost to them down in Norfolk, technically a neutral court, in the league tournament. But I do think that they're a team that, if they can maintain that level of defense, and last year, in fairness, in league play, based on KenPom, they were the second best defensive team in the league. So if they're even better, that bodes pretty well, I think.
Let's talk about on a national scale. Again, when the season gets underway 1 week from tonight, and I believe every local team is playing 1 week from tonight. I believe everybody is just about in action on Monday night next week. Big storyline, the biggest storylines, I assume it's a couple of coaching changes. Duke, Villanova, I assume that's at the top of the list for you as far as the biggest national storyline.
Yeah, I think those are certainly significant. How does John Shire's first season go, replacing Mike Krzyzewski? Kyle Neptune did, I thought, a fabulous job at Fordham last year. I mean, the record doesn't stand out. They went 16-16, but when you consider that that's a program that hadn't won 8 A-10 games in a season in, 6 years or so, and typically has been a doormat in that league and ended up in the 8-9 game. That was a pretty strong level of improvement there, and obviously he's tied in with the Villanova culture and whatnot. Had been an assistant there under Jay Wright for a long time. So, I think that overall, those are two interesting things to keep an eye on. I think, the obvious, when I think about the Almanac slogan that's been out there, it's the year of the big man, right? Armando Bacot is back, and Drew Timme at Gonzaga is back, and Shabwe at Kentucky. I mean, shouldn't ignore the National Player of the Year or anything. So when you size that up, I think that those are things that certainly there's a little bit of brand name for a few players to think about, and we haven't necessarily seen that on a consistent basis in college basketball.
That's very
in the one and done era.
You find out who a player is, and then they're gone.
And then they're gone. Correct. And so I think that we're looking at teams. Obviously, there's a fair number of blue bloods that we expect to be good, but I also think there's a fair amount of uncertainty too. Everybody thinks Carolina's going to be really good,
sure,
and they were really good at the end of last season.
But they were a pretty inconsistent team.
But they weren't anything particularly special up until mid-February.
Yeah.
And so, yes, Bacot's really good, and Caleb Love's really good, and they've got some other pieces. Now, it could just be one of those classic veteran North Carolina teams. It's also interesting, over the years, I had a friend that joked, Roy Williams has always been really good at getting players to not like money enough, and obviously Roy's not in charge down there anymore, but there's a certain element of that. Now, of course, it gets mitigated a little bit by some NIL stuff, but they've had a habit over the years of finding guys that were more willing to stick around than maybe their talent would suggest.
Sure.
So Love and Bacot is a good place to start for them. You think about a team that's maybe not necessarily the first team that pops to anybody's mind as to a power, but Creighton, I think, is going to be really, really good this year. They had a lot of breakout showings last season. They had Bailey Shireman from South Dakota State, who just was a statistical monster in the Summit League last year, and that was really one of the top transfers that was floating around out there. So I really think that that's a team that bears monitoring as well, along with, heavens knows how many teams we could come up with, in various places, whether it's UCLA, how does Arizona reload? What else happens in the Big 12? Because it's not like Kansas is going anywhere. It's not like Baylor's.
It feels
going
like
anywhere.
Houston is very much still.
Houston's very much in play, and they play down in Annapolis.
That's right, as part of the Veterans Classic.
Part of the Veterans Classic against St. Joseph's next Friday. So got to put a plug in for that because that might be the best team that comes through this area this season.
It's a great point, right? That's a very good point. They're preseason number 3, correct, in the country. So, no, it's a huge opportunity for you to see. I don't even know if there are still tickets. I say that. I have no idea if there are still tickets available for the Veterans Classic at this point, but it would be a huge opportunity for you to see one of the best teams in the country. You brought up Creighton. Give me another team that is maybe not getting as much attention at the start of the season that is more interesting to you, someone that you think could be a factor as the
St.
year
Louis.
goes on? St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Tell me about St. Louis.
All right. Well, I'll tell you about.
I know 0.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you about a couple A10 teams. We'll start with probably the better team in the A10, and that's Dayton.
Okay.
Which brings back pretty much everybody from last year. Deron Holmes is a guy. He was a freshman last year, A10 freshman of the year. And he's the truth. He was a top 50 recruit, and they made a big deal out about landing him, and it turned out he was every bit as good as they expected. So you throw him in with Tamani Kamara, Malachi Smith, great team there, and that's a team I think they're not going to be. I don't think they're going to be like Obi Toppin level,
Sure,
top 5,
right?
But they're going to be a team that's going to cause problems for people because they have about as good a front court as you're going to see. There's only a handful that are better than that.
Wow.
So. St. Louis is an interesting team because last year at the start of the season, they had a player that they were really banking on, Javonte Perkins, that was going to basically be like one of the top players in the A10, and he tears his ACL in the preseason. And it just turned out that they had an awesome point guard in Yuri Collins, and the injury actually opened the door for Gibson Jimerson to play. And the next thing you know, like they won 23 games last year, and they bring just about everybody back.
Okay.
So
all right.
I think that's a team, that is definitely worth monitoring. And a third team that we really need to keep an eye on is definitely the Towson Tigers.
Look at this man with his transitions. Look at that. He's a radio professional. This is our college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens is here in studio with us. Today's show also brought to you by the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Use the code TAILGATE at ginsugrills.com right now and save $100 when you pre-order your Ginsu Kamado Grill. One of our favorite people, always great to see, Coach Pat Skerry from Towson University, who I believe is the only that has done every single one of these with us over the years.
I think so.
I believe the only coach that has been in studio with us every year since we started doing these shows. Pat Skerry, it's so great to see you again, sir. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us.
It's great to be here. I
Nice.
don't know if that's a blessing or a curse.
No.
Is the commute a little bit better for you?
Yeah,
now?
right.
It's a great setup over here.
Yeah, it's
Great
not
setup.
bad, not bad. Right in your backyard. Coach, look, let me start here. You obviously had one of the best seasons in Towson basketball history a year ago, but clearly ended with disappointment, right? You bring back so much, and there's every reason to have every ounce of faith in this Towson team this year. But do you have to handle the emotional, the mental side of experiencing disappointment? Do you have to see your kids do something to understand that they've been able to move past that and know that they're focus driven and they are head back down to go maybe with the unfinished business this season?
Well, I mean, you know what the goal is. I think the challenge becomes with guys that are talented and competitive and that are taking on more of a leadership role of what does effective winning leadership mean, and we're definitely still a work in progress on that. I think the intent is really good, Glenn, and I think as a coach now it's trying to make sure that our behaviors match our intent. What I mean by that is, are you blocking out properly? Are you huddling guys properly? As an elite player, are you doing what you're supposed to do before or as you get after a new guy? Because if you get after a new guy, that's good. But if you're not doing it at a level that's consistent to what expectations are, then then you're going to have some bumps in the road. Like for a coach, we're trying to make sure starting November 7th, we don't have any bumps in the road. I'm not sure if we're going to have any bumps in the road yet. That's why we play the games. But so what I mean? That's the whole challenge. It's the short term versus where you're trying to get come March.
You look at what you guys had last season. You had 4 really spectacular players with eligibility remaining. And in this day and age, that usually means people are from high major schools are starting to circle like vultures, trying to pick guys off of a mid-major roster. And you've still got Charles Thompson, and you've still got Cam Holden, and you've still got Jason Gibson, you've still got Nick Timberlake. How neat is that just to have that opportunity to run it back with those guys this season?
No, I really appreciate that because one, they're really good guys, and they have mutual respect and appreciation for each other. Two, they're talented. And then three, I think they really like our program and our university, so they're here for all the right reasons. Now, I also know with them, there's a whole, like, they want it bad. You know, that doesn't guarantee anything either, you know. We went through hopefully a good experience on Saturday where we had a big lead early against a team I would probably consider that would come in the top 5 in our league, so like a January, February road game. And
this is at St. Joe's.
At St. Joe's, St. Joe's, and Billy Lang's done a nice job. They got good talent, good size, speed, and they had some people in the building, so all that was good. And then, you know, we didn't do a good job with some execution down the stretch that I think, like, for me, where I've got to do a better job and then get our guys understand, like a year ago down the stretch, when we got up on you, it was over. So the reality is right now we're not there. But it's not because we didn't play hard. It's not because we didn't have talent. We're just, we're a work in progress. You know, someone said, "Did you learn anything from this?" I said, "Tell you in a week or so."
Right. I mean, we'll find out. Exactly right. I understand that. Coach, what was the biggest difference a year ago in gelling the way that you did? Like, what was it? Was it the kids? Was it something specific that you thought that they did? Why did it gel so well last season, and how do you attempt to replicate that?
Well, one, the kids, and I still feel like we have the same type of kids.
Yeah.
Two was we really shared the ball, and I thought our ball movement was outstanding on Saturday, which that was really encouraging.
By the way, Pat Skerry is now on Twitter, and if you want some entertaining content, it's when he shares videos of his team moving the ball in practice.
Yeah, that's right, and got some good quotes. And I would say I'm back with a vengeance on Twitter, and you should definitely at Coach Pat Skerry should definitely give it a follow. They, I think like right now, like it's just the intangibles. Like when you play against Towson. Do you feel us in some other areas where I think even when we maybe didn't have as good a team, you felt us playing against us? We're not there yet. I believe we absolutely will get there because the guys really want to get there. Like I felt good about my group. We had a community service event on Sunday after getting back Saturday night, and they were all there on time. So I felt good about my group.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. It's a good group. But, I think the other thing a couple of guys said, like, they jumped around and ran on the court afterwards. And, not that the place was packed, but I said, yeah, like, it's a little bit – it's going to be a little bit different, And, it was good. It was good to do it for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, obviously – do lose a handful of players. Terry Nolan, who made a major difference for you last year.
And a great leader.
Antonio Rizzuto, and Juwan Gray, who I know you raved about, even if that wasn't necessarily a stat stuffer, that was a guy that made a major difference for you guys this season. Are there a few newcomers or a guy like a Radir Hicks who played a fair bit last year when he was healthy that you think are going to be able to make a significant impact now?
Yeah, well, they're going to have to, right? Mm-hmm. I think I would have told you last year this time Terry Nolan was the best player on our roster and maybe the best player in the league. He fought a lot of difficult respiratory issues, but was a tremendous leader. And I think Antonio and Juwan, even if deep down they didn't love their role, you never knew it, like as a coach. They accepted it for the good of the team. So now all of a sudden we're trying to add some guys like, Hicks had a really good offseason. We're kind of just getting him back. He'd had a concussion, was out for a couple weeks, so he's got we're going to count on him early to help us. So he needs to play a little bit better than he did this weekend. I think he will. Russell, early signs on Russell have been pretty good.
The Southeast Missouri State
transfer. Nigel Russell, really good size, good athlete, can make shots, and then we need him for his defense and his rebounding. And then Sekou Siller is a guy that we've got to figure out, coach him a little better, where to play him, when to play him, how to play him, because he can be pretty effective. Now I say all this stuff we just had a loss the other day. Him and Charles missed 4 big free throws in the last 5 minutes, 0 for 4. Russell missed 2 layups that I think he's going to make 9 out of 10, and then we had a shot to win the game. So, those are things that sting you, but hopefully you learn from it. So those guys right now would be, 5, 6, 7. We're going to play another big kid at some point. We went with Chris Bieku the other day. Chase Parr's been battling some injuries. Thought Chris did a good job. He's had a good offseason. And I do believe in our freshmen. I didn't play Ryan Conway a ton the other day, mostly because of in the second half we let some things slip, and I was more, in my mind, not against our new guys, more like to our older guys. Oh, you want to be the top dog, then go figure it out. And we didn't. So I think I do feel like Ryan's got a chance, for a guy that hasn't played in 2 years. There's certainly anxiety and nerves the first time you put on a uniform, that his trajectory will go upwards. And there's still space. I hate this, it's hard to play them all, but we like May and we like Coleman's really changed his body, and we got to figure out what we're doing with Williamson, because we think he's maybe our best one-on-one guy. So we don't have that figured out, guys. I think the challenging thing when you have high expectations, and we do, not that other teams don't, is we don't have a schedule where we're going to play any non-ones. We're not buying games. So you can't say, like,
you're going to get your minutes here.
Well, I'd love to be Kevin Willard for a lot of reasons, right? But when he's going to have some, they're going to have some meetings and say, hey, let's make sure we get this guy. Like, we don't have any of those. And I'm okay with that, because we have really good opportunities early on to get signature wins or find out, we better get this fixed before the CAA rolls around.
Oh, it is. It is a difficult schedule. UMass, obviously, in there. Crypto Greensboro, going to Penn. There's a lot of, it's not cupcakes.
Yeah, and the other thing there too is, you go 25-9 last year. It's a song as old as time. Who's signing up to play you guys this season?
Yeah, it's tough to do, and I'm our last, no problem saying we had 3 games left to schedule late. Unfortunately, we've lost some local series. But everyone's got different needs for scheduling. So I've done here long. I'm past saying, why doesn't this team play? Everyone's got different needs. But our last 3 games, we took a game at Northern Iowa over exams in Chicago. That's no picnic. At Bryant, who's NCAA tournament team, and a home with UMass, who's got a Final Four coach. So, that's what we felt.
Who's the maniac making this schedule?
Yeah,
we got to deal with
but I will say this, and I went to our older guys and said, hey, do you want to try that? We don't have a lot of home games. You want to play a couple non-ones? And they were like, absolutely not. We'd love to play anyone. And we tried to get home games. So they said, we don't buy any. And, we had a hard time getting anyone to come here. So I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, I think Pat studied us a lot over the years, too. We normally play really well come conference time. It's why over the last decade we've got the best winning percentage in the CAA and conference games. But this is it does feel different. We got some stuff early that I hope we're playing our best early. I know that we better play our best. We better play our best late.
He is, of course, Pat Skerry, a head coach at Towson. He's in studio with us on our college basketball preview, and I'll just dovetail off of that, right? Like, what do you do during the season? You guys were doing everything well. Like, everything was clicking. You couldn't do anything wrong. It was, unfortunately, a lot of us were already planning the celebration parties, right? Like, we were already getting ready together for the NCAA tournament watch show. How do you use the season to be better prepared for the CAA tournament?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to feel any different if we're fortunate enough to win another league championship. We're certainly going to embrace that and celebrate that, because it's not easy to do, and we've been close a couple of times, and we had none of them before that, So, and then I hope we play really good down in D.C. I think as a coach, there's a former NBA coach that's helped me out a couple of times this summer, and he talked about, I think there's reasons why we didn't beat Delaware, right? They're good. We just beat them a week earlier. a really good player for us gets hurt. I think the excuse is that I didn't have enough guys ready to go when their number was called on that night. So that's what you're like trying to demand. Like, how we got some guys that we believe in. I think this is the healthiest our roster potentially has been from top to bottom since I've been here. But you can't get everyone in every night. But their number could get called. How do you keep them ready, right? That's where I think coaching, we've got to do a good job with that.
Just because I don't know we found out Bino was listening earlier. You brought up Terry Nolan earlier. I just want to echo what you said. One of the best human beings that I've seen come through this area. And I know I told you that a bunch of times, but even after the season was over, he asked if he could chip in and make a donation for the Helping Up mission for a thing we were doing charity-wise. Like, that's the type of human being Terry Nolan is, and he will be missed, but I know you've got other really good kids, and we got to know a bunch of them during the season last year. It's really an incredible group of young men you put together.
It's been fun. I think like a couple of years ago, we've had other good teams. I just appreciate the type of guys we have, and I think a couple of years ago gave us a chance to maybe reassess some things and try to do it better. I can't say enough about Terry. He's over in Portugal.
Yep.
I believe he can play for a while. I hope it's never easy being away. It's easy for coaches and fans to tell everyone, "Oh yeah, go to Europe."
Right.
It's another thing, probably,
especially as a young dad too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like,
but hopefully he. But he's one of those guys, Glenn. There's certain guys they're going to be successful in whatever they choose to pursue.
Yeah, he's special in that way. And I know Ryan Conway's a local kid. You brought him up earlier, and
He's a great kid. Yeah, he's going to be a really good player because of how hard he works and the type of kid he is. He's a lot more competitive than I thought. I think, like anything, there is an adjustment going from high school to college. I think sometimes there's even further adjustment if you haven't played a game in 2 years. So I think that's I think he gets that based on the way he works every day, and I believe he'll make a factor for us.
We saw, especially early last season, before he had to become a masked man, Cam Holden really kind of involved in a fair bit of ball handling for a guy his size, almost a point forward type. How neat is it to have a player like that, and do you think that's something that we could see out of you guys, him handling the ball a fair bit for you?
You'll see it a lot. Okay. Yep, a lot. And we've got a package with him as our point, and we're going to, I think we got to get Siller on the floor, and we don't want to take Thompson off either, and we don't want to take Holden off. So I think because we can surround those guys with really good shooting that we have to. I mean, Cam is, I'm not going to tell you he's quite Jarrell Benjamin. Those are sacred words. But he's incredibly versatile when it comes to that. He enjoys passing, much like Jarrell did. That's his favorite thing about basketball. And I would say him and Jarrell are by far the most intelligent guys I've ever had, like when they studied film and come in with some ideas. So he's I'm certainly glad he's back.
Is it, it's been sort of a committee approach, right? Scoring-wise. Like, it's been, you and I talked a lot last season. Like, any night it could be somebody's night, right? And your team did a great job of identifying, hey, it's their night. Like, I don't need to go get my own. Should we expect that it's going to continue that way this season?
Yeah, I believe so. I think like I said, one thing I really like about these guys is they all came back knowing that it's not going to be one guy getting 30 and everyone else standing around. So that says they have a mutual respect for each other. I think for us, it's like two things. Like right now you got four guys that you leaned on heavily. Two played well for us the other day. Two played nowhere near up to their standards.
Okay.
And we lost a 50-50 game. I would tell you today it's two things. One, if 3 out of 4 play really well, we're probably in good shape. But we also there's other guys that we have that we believe in. How do we get them quickly up to speed?
And then I know I keep asking you to play psychiatrist and you're a basketball coach. Is there any burden that comes with, like, what you guys are dealing with? There is a championship expectation. That's what, as you pointed out, that's why these guys came back, right? Like, that's why these guys stuck around. Is there, do you have to worry? Do you have to talk about that at all and say, hey, we can't let this get us carried away here or get lost in the idea of championship or bust? That can end up being a daunting thing.
Well, I think we can't. It certainly it is. I mean, they know it. I mean, although we've just really tried to focus on how do we get better today. I'm not ignorant. I mean, guys there's a lot of stuff for them to read and social media. And I want them to enjoy that piece. They've worked incredibly hard to do that for our program. I've also talked to them about, like, Nick Timberlake. Like, we haven't been to the tournament ever in the CAA. Well, you've been here 4 years, so you haven't been here forever. I think if you were here forever, you would have won a couple times. You're only responsible for this year. I think the hard thing is, like, as a coach, we just want to try to be consistent so that we have the opportunities in February and March, and then hope for a little good
a little good luck,
fortune.
right? Yeah, for a change. It'd be all right if it worked out that way. It does start at home next Monday night, 7 o'clock against Albany before a road swing. Coach, I have no doubt that we'll be talking a lot as the season goes on. It's really good to see you. Appreciate you once again coming in and hanging out, keeping the streak alive of being the coach that's been here every year. Look forward to doing it more. Thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, appreciate what you guys do for basketball in the area. And, yeah, it's exciting to be back.
There's no doubt. Here's Coach Pat Skerry from Towson. He's with us in studio. Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's is going to join us next. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Patrick Stevens is here. It is our college basketball preview edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests. And, of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, November 1st at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill, 5506 Hartford Road. It's brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is now running. It's one of their most popular seasonal menus all year. It features the chicken schnitzel, the Oktoberfest brewer's platter, the brewer's sausage sandwich, the Bavarian burger with a pretzel bun, the cheddar ale soup, the slam dunk pretzels, and the apple cobbler. All of these meals pair well with Oktoberfest beers and Angry Orchard on draft. Dine in or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and pick up your favorites to take home. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
Check out Jeremy Kahn's daily picks at PressBoxOnline.com as he tries to find you daily winners. And speaking of winners, here's a man who once won a media curling contest, and I don't think anything else. He's Glenn Clark.
We continue along on the college basketball preview edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick Stevens is here. And speaking of college basketball, a reminder that the new print issue of Pressbox is available right now. Kevin Willard is on the cover. You can go pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Read it all at PressBoxOnline.com, not just the sit down with Kevin Willard, but also stories on men's and women's players from every D1 program in the area can be found in this print issue of Pressbox, available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Next up on the hot seat, we head out to Emmitsburg. We are joined by the head coach at Mount St. Mary's. He's Coach Dan Engelstad, and he's with us here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick Stevens. It's great to chat with you again. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, always good to talk with you guys, and all that means is that we're basically here.
It's
got
time.
some games coming up.
No doubt, it is time. Coach, obviously the big storyline for you guys, the move to a new conference, and you know you guys have been one of the kings of the NEC for a few years here. What is it? What does it take adjusting to a new league, a league that obviously has been a really, really good league for the last few years?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that's gone into it from an administrative standpoint, from coaching standpoint, of just trying to get some familiarity and watching film. And but I do think that question will probably be better asked next year after we go through it for a season. Just it's going to be new. We're going to play on different days. Most games in our league now are Friday, Sunday. We got went from Ken Palm, the 29th ranked league, to the 16th. So there is some transition, but this is year 5 for us, and we return a lot of really talented pieces and veteran pieces, and just trying to put it together and get ready for another season and like the direction we're heading.
Identity-wise, how well do you think the way that you guys play is going to fit into the MAAC? I think it's fair to say that you guys have been a defense-first team here for a couple years now. And I've got to think that that's what you're going to be trying to hang your hat on in your new home.
Yeah, that won't change, and I think there are a lot of teams that play similarly to that in the MAAC. I think it's a very physical league. It's a big league from a guard standpoint. Your threes are usually really big and strong and athletic, and the post will be a little bit bigger than what we've seen, but nothing has changed though in terms of winning college basketball games. You need really good guard play, and we think we have that, but we're putting our identity on the defensive side of the floor, and that will always be the case. And, we're hopeful that we're going to be a little bit more traditional this season. So we got some perimeter play that all three of our guards can really make plays and reads and shoot it off, on and off the ball. So we're looking forward to hopefully putting up some more points, but still having, defense be the forefront on our focus.
Speaking of those guards, DeAndre Thomas, Jalen Benjamin, both of those guys are back along with Josh Reeves. That's a really good place, I would think, to start. How good do you feel about the continuity that you have back there and the potential for each of those guys to be able to take a step forward over what they did last season?
Yeah, we need them to take steps forward. For Jalen Benjamin, it was his 3rd year of college basketball, but his 1st year for us. And he really improved as the year went on, just really understanding what we were looking for and what we were trying to attack out of our ball screen offense. DeAndre was playing more on the ball last year, so we need him to score the basketball more. Josh is coming off injury, but looking forward to getting him back healthy. But Dakota, Jalen Gibson, we added Xavier Lipscomb and George Tinsley. We think we've added some good depth and guys that have played college basketball. It's just meshing this group together. But we need those guys that you mentioned to all make some jumps here.
Coach Dan Engelstad, Mount St. Mary's, is with us here on our college basketball preview show. Coach, you referenced a couple of those guys. I'll throw Malik in the front court as well. Just the amount of experience that you have and a veteran-laden roster as you make this jump into, again, as you point out, a more competitive or high-level league. How helpful is it to have that type of experience? Clearly, you think of Jalen. He's played in a lot of big games over the years at UAB. How much does that assist you as you make the move to a new league?
Yeah, it assists us in every regard. Anytime you can get older, for us, we got some young bigs behind them, talented ones too, guys that we really think have bright futures. But Malik's an example. He's somebody, in an era of college basketball where everyone's leaving, Malik stayed all 5 with us. So first and foremost, that's huge for me, just to have that familiarity, not just with college basketball, but with our program. He's been the rock. He's somebody that shows up every single day, low maintenance. He's already got a job as a accountant. He's getting his master's right now. But he's just one of those everyday guys that just shows it with his action. He's the school's all-time Division I rebounder. So anytime you have somebody up the middle that is going to hold his own, and it doesn't matter what league. I mean, he's gonna battle against these guys from West Virginia. On Monday, Malik's played in a lot of basketball games, and to have a veteran, come back like him, we actually need him to do more. And when he's healthy, we know that he can. I mean, we need him to produce more from an offensive standpoint. We need him to clear the glass, and we need him to be in great shape so we can keep him on the floor. But, having that everyday guy in Malik has been huge for us over the years. And I'm sure glad that as we make this transition, I have a guy that I know is going to show up every day.
You mentioned a little bit earlier the addition of George Tinsley, a guy that was the America East Rookie of the Year a few years back. Maybe didn't play quite as much over the last couple seasons, certainly not as much last season. How much of a bonus is he for you guys to be able to add, and how do you see him kind of fitting into what you want to do?
Yeah, George is a slide guy. He can play the 4, he can play the 3, he can shoot the basketball. The one thing that he does for us that's unique to what we haven't had is he moves the basketball so well from that 4 spot. The ball just moves. He gets off of it. He's able to pick and pop and stretch the floor a little bit, which opens up more driving lanes for our guards. And he's a great decision maker. He can really make good decisions and passes. And he's one of those guys that has to wear elbow guards because he's diving on the floor all the time and comes up with those 50-50s. And, for us, we're going to scrap, and George is a scrappy guy, man. So we're thankful to have him with us.
I'm staring out at Calvert Hall College right now. I know you brought in Antonio Foxwell. We always have a greater interest in some of these local kids. Is he someone who's going to have an opportunity to crack through and get some minutes for you guys?
So Antonio is a preferred walk-on for us. He's doing a really good job. Right now his role is mostly just helping with our scout and getting us better.
Sure.
But Antonio is a great addition, great young man, good student, and thankful to have him with us.
I love scheduling questions, so when I see a road trip to Southern Cal, Cal Poly, and Pacific all in a row, I got to ask exactly how that came about. I'm sure the USC game probably was kind of at the anchor of that, but how much are you looking forward to having that sort of trip there early in the season to kind of keep your team together on the road for a little bit?
It was actually flipped. The other two were part of an MTE. So we were approached by them. For us at the Mount, we do have to bring in some money as part of the deal here. So I'm contractually obligated to bring in some money. So those 2 games paid pretty decently, and then we reached out to some schools in California, and USC had the date, and we kind of put it all together. And for us, I like it. I mean, we get to challenge ourselves against the USC, and then get to play some games against good opponents, but games that we can go compete and hopefully compete and win. Mm-hmm. And for us, we get a full week, we get to come together and bond, and I think the trip's going to be a real positive for us.
Coach, I saw that you had Jamie and Christian back recently to chat with you guys, and I was wondering if you could just share us about your relationship with Jamie, and I think I saw that he's doing a little bit of our stuff these days. He's doing some media stuff these days. But what that was like to have him as a resource, someone who clearly, we know from his life is all about Mount St. Mary's, right? And like what it meant to your kids to be able to reach out to a guy like that.
Yeah, so Jay and I go back all the way to when I first started. I was 22, and I think Jamie was probably 24. He was at Bucknell, and when I got the job, he reached out, and we chatted for a while, and then, we'd be on the road together recruiting. So we kind of came up through the ranks together in this, and we never had coached together, but we always talked. When I was at Southern Vermont and he was here, we'd chat regularly on Mondays and talk about each other's teams and different things we were doing and philosophy. And when I took over, he obviously had a program to take care of himself, and so we never really had the chance to bring him back and talk to the guys and share some of his experiences. And he's a really great motivational speaker, and he had some great messages for our team, and our guys were eyes wide open, and he's cut down nets multiple times here as the head coach. And we talk about the tradition here at the Mount, and Jamie had one of the best runs that they've had at Division I. So it was it was great to have him back, and I think he loved being in the gym. And now, he is doing some media stuff, and but he's a terrific speaker, and it was good to get him back here. And I know our fans were excited to see him back in Memorial Gymnasium.
You mentioned a handful of guys that were largely reserves last season that have come back. Is there somebody on the roster you feel like has taken a bigger leap than you would typically see year over year? Somebody maybe ready for a breakout season.
We need some guys to step up and make that leap. Guys that have really worked hard and gotten a lot better. Dakota LaFew comes to mind. Really talented, bigger guard, can handle, pass, shoot. With confidence and with more playing time, I think Dakota could be set to break out here. We need our guys. You talked about Dre and Jalen at the top, but we form a pretty dang good backcourt if they make the jumps they need to make. So looking forward to seeing him play and get better. And we need some stability in our front court from guys. Francis had a really good preseason as well in our front court, and like I said, JD and Dola both have a lot of talent. So just kind of who steps up and kind of separates himself throughout the year.
I asked this question at the risk of finding out that somebody is also probably not going to be getting a ton of minutes, but I feel like going to the Maryland soccer roster is not typically the way that most basketball teams go about finding players. Can you tell me about how this came about with Justin, that he ended up being a part of your team?
Yeah, and so Coach Mike Lonergan, you guys know the name well.
Absolutely.
His son is a GA for me. Graduated from the Mount, sister is Mount alum. Coach Lonergan's watched our games, given notes in the past, but he reached out and talked to us about Justin and remembered watching him during his DeMatha days. And so we brought Justin up and talked to him. And, he had already graduated Maryland in 3.5 years, low maintenance student, wanted to get his master's and wanted to scratch that itch of playing college basketball. And to be expected, there is always a learning curve when you haven't played sport competitively for 4 years, but he is relentless in his work ethic, tough kid, can make shots, and don't be surprised if you see him out there competing here sooner than later.
What a cool story that is. That's a really neat opportunity for someone to go get a chance to do that and offer something to you guys in the process. I love everything about that. From this area, so it's a really cool thing too. Coach, I saw on your Twitter a while back, I saw you talking about, I don't know, I keep harping on the move, but what it meant to the guys on your roster, the excitement that they had about making this jump in competition. How much have you felt that like this has maybe energized the program in a way that these kids are saying, look, we want this. This is the challenge we want.
Yeah, they were excited about it from day one. We had our press conference, and they were all smiles and looking forward to putting ourselves in a position. I think that excitement was stemmed from their knowledge of the league and what they just accomplished. St. Peter's did what they did. Everybody can relate to that, right? Especially at the mid-major level. Having a chance to make a deep run, and I do think that Rick Pitino being at Iona, and just a lot of these guys know the players that are in this conference too. And, I still wish we had dominated the NEC over the last couple of years and thought we were kind of building towards that. But for us, this is just a great competitive challenge, and, we want to prepare against the best to, make a run. And when you're playing night in, night out against really good opponents and teams, when you have those good years, you set yourself up to get off that 16 seed and, get a 14, 13, and, in some instances even a 12. So, that's the ultimate goal, is to go to the tournament and win games. And I think our guys realize that this gives us a chance to do that, if we're playing the way we're capable of.
He is Coach Dan Engelstad from Mount St. Mary's. Season gets underway on the road next Monday night at West Virginia. They will be home for the first time on November 15th against McDaniel. Coach, best of luck this season. We will be in touch as it moves along. Thank you, as always, for taking time for us here on the preview show.
Yeah, always good to be on, guys. Thanks for your time, and wish you guys the best this season. Hopefully see you in Emmitsburg. We'd love to have you.
Thanks so much, Dan. Look forward to seeing you then.
That's Dan Engelstad, head coach at Mount St. Mary's, joining us here on GCR. All right, Patrick, last two teams we talked about, Towson and Mount St. Mary's. Time for you to give us your thumbnails on those programs.
Well, I think Towson's there's a lot of knowns with Towson.
No question.
I think that when you size up a team that has all four of those guys back that played such huge roles for them last year, whether it's Charles Thompson, who the second half of league play in particular was just fabulous, Cam Holden, who can do a lot, Nick Timberlake, who I think on his best nights is maybe the best player on that roster, and then Jason Gibson, who's just a really solid guy who had those handful of games where you suddenly look up and, oh, he's hit 6 3-pointers tonight too, by the way.
Yep.
So, to have that core group, and I think something else, and I've talked to a couple of those guys about that, I feel very similarly to you about just what a good dude Pat Skerry is, but I think it's also fair to say he's not for everybody as a player.
No, he can be.
He can be
abrasive.
He's very direct, and so all those guys know what they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that I think is really important there too. That he is, he has a group of guys that have gone back and forth with him, and there's a very good, strong bond there. And so you look at that, and then you look at, adding in the Russell kid from Southeast Missouri State, I think as kind of a stabilizing figure. I don't know if he'll be quite as good as Terry Nolan, but I think if he can play defense and take care of the ball, that's going to be really valuable. The Silla kid from the D2 school in Florida, he scored a ton of points. So the question there is, can they find a way to extract as much as they can out of him scoring wise without disrupting everything else? I think that's maybe the open question with that team. So I look at them and I think that that's going to be a team that is going to be, fair or not, going to be judged by what they do on 3 days in March.
Yep, that's the way it goes,
and that's just how it is. But they have the goods to be able to win 3 games in March too.
I think that's a completely fair statement, and obviously that's just what they have to go prove they're capable of doing. Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah, Mount St. Mary's it's an interesting group. We talked a little bit about some of the continuity they have with guys like Jalen Benjamin, and it feels like Malik Jefferson has been playing there for about 8 years now. And so I think Dan Engelstad had a really good group. I don't know how well they're going to handle that jump to the Metro Atlantic. I think one of the good things is it's not like you're going out of your footprint. You're playing you're basically making most of the same kind of trips aside from the trip out to Buffalo that they're going to do over New Year's to play Canisius and Niagara. You're playing some better teams, I think. But beyond Iona, who's really good, and Patino draws the headlines, but there's a really good roster there. I don't know if there is a juggernaut waiting in that league. Manhattan was picked second, and they fire their coach 2 weeks before the season starts, and the preseason player of the year enters the transfer portal. So, it's not as if there's not other good teams. Like, I think Ryder and Fairfield are both going to be quite good. And by the way, even though St. Peter's lost a lot, there's probably some residue from that run that they had last year. Quinnipiac, Niagara, both of those teams, I think, you probably can anticipate being right around the middle of the pack as well. So, but if you're Mount St. Mary's, this is a jump, and it might not be one of those things where, after you've been used to being in the top half of a league, it might take a year or two to really make that adjustment. But I do think that they can make the adjustment.
Okay.
And I think that, for them, one of the benefits they have is, they can draw on the Baltimore and D.C. area to get guys, whereas most of those other schools are all fighting over guys largely in the New York area. Yep. But that having been said, I think, too, the one thing that Mount St. Mary's has going for it that maybe gets narrowed a little bit in that league, because you've got a Siena and what have you in an Iona, is you still have people that really, really care and are really invested in your community, in your program. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Mount has a chance to make themselves, probably not, because Iona's there, and
right.
Iona's done this over multiple head coaches, you're probably not going to be the team that everybody looks at and says, oh, well, they're automatically like the favorite every year. But I think that they can play their way up into the top third of the league before long. I just don't know if it happens this season.
I understand. It's asking quite a bit for it to be a jump that you make this quickly. All right, the Tyus Bowser Show returns tomorrow night. We will be at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill with Tyus and his special guest. Hope you will come join us starting at 7 o'clock. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of Pressbox and Great 8's Memorabilia. It is brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Again, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Come join us. You can find out more by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser for the Tyus Bowser Show. And if you happen to miss it, you'll be able to catch it Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. We continue along. It is our college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens is in studio with us here on GCR. Next on the hot seat, let's head to Catonsville, catch up with the head coach of the Retrievers. He is head coach Jim Ferry from UMBC, and he's with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's great to chat with you again. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Coach, I want to go back. I want to revisit, right? And like from the time that you arrived here at UMBC, you're now, clearly your feet are quite wet at this point. You've been doing this. You've been around for a year. What have you most learned, or what did you most learn about the job, about the area during the course of your first season at UMBC?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the area. It's awesome. I live right in the city, right in Fells Point, so I'm all in on the crabs and everything. So it's a great place, really is.
Well,
love it here.
Then we're good. We can accept you, I guess, is the way that works.
That's
all. You passed the test.
No, it's awesome, and the school. Our environment here. It's just such a special place. UMBC. I felt it during the process of looking at the job and meeting people. Now that I've been here for a whole year, it's just a special community that we have here. Everybody really cares about the students at this university. We've got great success coming out of here. Get great fan support. So it's been nothing but great. I really enjoyed the time so far, and we had some success last year with some ups and downs with all the craziness with COVID and stuff like that, and now we have this whole new team, so it's exciting. I feel like I'm starting year one all over again. So it's been great. I love it. My staff loves it, and we're looking forward to year number 2.
Jim, Patrick Stevens here. You basically took the words right out of my mouth right there. I was going to say, does it feel like a year 1 2.0 for you right there? And I guess it kind of does. How do you kind of go about things in that kind of situation? And do you feel like there's enough still in place with a handful of holdovers that you have a culture pretty much set up right now that you've been able to acclimate everybody into?
Yeah, well, fortunately enough, I've been doing this long enough. I'm one of the old heads now, I guess. So I have a general idea of what I want to do, what our program wants to be known for, how we're going to do things. Last year we had some kids that were, basically left over. I know a bunch of guys went with Ryan to Utah State, and then we had a bunch of guys that were kind of role players on the teams that had some success, and those guys stepped up, and we had a really good year. We finished in second. We got all the way to the championship game, and that was with a 20-day shutdown with COVID in the middle of the season where we couldn't touch a ball. So that was kind of tough because, trying to implement, a different system, a different offense, everything we do is different. To not have that time, it kind of held us back. But then credit to those kids, man. Once we came back after that COVID stop, I think we got things going and really came together and played well. The makeup of college basketball right now is different, with the transfer portal and guys not having to sit out. And I think, the guys at our level, most teams are kind of starting new almost every year. So we have 8 new guys. Fortunately enough, we've got, guys that we really like. We got some older guys blending in with some younger guys, and then a couple of guys left over that kind of help us establish, what we're going to be and who we are. I really, really like this team. We have a real mature group of guys. We got several guys. So we brought in 4 guys that grad transfers that mature, already have their masters, and all coming from winning programs, which I think is really, really important. So they've done a great job. The returners have done a fantastic job of letting everybody know that this is how we do things that we established last year. We have some young, real talented freshmen, and just a great group of guys that have really blended together quicker than I would assume they would have throughout the summer and the fall. And within practice every day. So it's a great group. Love being around them every day. I know a lot of coaches say that now because no one's lost a game, but I'll be honest with you, just really, really like this group of guys. Whatever happens, wins and losses, this is just a great team, a great group of guys that, really sharing their beliefs and working together to be successful. So it's exciting.
Let's delve into a couple of those additions, those veteran additions. Colton Lawrence, the D2 transfer from Bentley, who scored a ton of points in his career, and then Craig Beaudouin from Cleveland State, who had some success on a really good team out there in the Horizon League. What sort of impact do you envision those two guys having this season?
A lot. I mean, they're just winners. They're just winners. Obviously, you start with Colton. So Colton, big-time scorer at Bentley, Division II school. Now, he played for a guy that I worked for years ago. So we kind of have that same background. So in our two scrimmages thus far, Colton's been our leading scorer. I think he had 20 in the first one and 23 in the second one. Won a lot of games, scored a lot of points, been to the Elite Eight, been in a championship program. He's got great poise, leadership. He's done a fantastic job for us. He's really versatile, can score in a multitude of ways. He's got a great body. He's really athletic. So he's made a major impact since he's been here. And same with Craig. I mean, Craig, he was the point guard on that NCAA tournament team at Cleveland State, led them the whole year. And unfortunately, last year he had a major ankle injury, so he basically missed the whole year. And then with his coach leaving, he was looking to something different. And we're fortunate he ended up here because he's been fantastic for us. When you can have a point guard that's got experience and leadership and can really control a basketball game, which he has done in both our scrimmages, it's great. And then especially because we have a really talented young freshman in Mason Docks that can play the point too. So for those two to work together and him to help, teach Mason a little bit, and those guys, we can play them together at times. It's been really great.
He is Coach Jim Ferry from UMBC. He's with us here on GCR. Coach, I'm imagining it's actually going to dovetail kind of into my next question, which was, where's the scoring coming from, right? Like, you lose your top four scorers from a year ago. Do you know yet? Do you have an idea of who's going to shoulder the load for you, or is it something that even you still need to learn in the coming weeks as the season gets underway?
Well, I think we're going to be pretty balanced, as we were last year. I mean, we had Keandre that was obviously our leading scorer, but, for those of you guys that have followed my career or know a little bit about my career, my teams usually do okay scoring the basketball. We play with great pace. We share the ball. I mean, I think we scored 82 points in the first scrimmage and 88 in the second.
Okay.
Against two good programs. So I think it's going to be more balanced. We play with great pace. We spread the floor. I think we've recruited guys with versatility. They can all pass, dribble, and shoot. And we're doing a good job. Though Jacob Bunyasev has been fantastic for us this year. Wait till you guys see his body's changed. He's really physical. He's putting major pressure. I think last year he kind of took like a step back as like the third or fourth wheel on the team. Right now, I think he's being more aggressive offensively because he's a really skilled player. So, I think we can score inside. We can score outside. Yao Opang-Mensah has really, really improved. I think he went for like 20 and 11 the other day.
Wow.
Playing him on a perimeter, you're going to see a big difference in his game too. So I really like the group. I think our pieces fit well together. Ultimately it's going to come down to defending and rebounding at a high level, but I think we should be able to score the ball this year, especially as we continue to, have shared experiences with each other. That's the biggest issue right now, is being with a bunch of new guys. There's not a ton of shared experiences. So every day is something, new and as we grow. So I think, by the time we get to league play, I think you're really going to start to see us come together.
On the interior, how have things kind of looked so far? I mean, I know you mentioned Yaw, probably a guy that would play the 4 or the 5 for you this season, but how overall has that group kind of worked itself out? And I kind of think about a guy like a Trey Edwards that I'm sure is a little bit of a wild card just because of how little he's been able to play because of injury over the course of his career. Yeah, and Trey's still bouncing back from that injury. He's working really hard. We brought in two grad transfers, Trayvon Fagan from Buffalo, another guy that's got, championship experience, played a lot of minutes at Buffalo, went to the NCAA tournament, and Jarvis Doles, local Baltimore guy, coming home, is a double-digit scorer in our league for the past couple of years. So, you look at Jarvis and Trayvon and Yao as a
combination of guys in the forward position. Some pretty good players, give us some depth, and they're all a little different from each other. So I think it makes us a little bit more unique. AG is fighting back from his injury. We're trying to get him healthy as another front court body. And then we've slid Devin Sapp, the junior college transfer, can place him at the 4 for us as well. So we're kind of attacking it almost as like a 3-headed monster right now, and they're doing a really good job with it. So I think they played out this weekend against a very good team, a very big team. So using our quickness and our athleticism.
What's the biggest difference, Coach? I've been asking this to everybody this morning. What's the biggest difference if you guys are going to be able to compete in what we know is a loaded league, and obviously Vermont goes nowhere, and you guys have seen that, right?
And Bryant comes
right,
in.
Bryant 100%, right? What is the biggest
really talented, yeah.
What's the biggest difference for your team in being able to compete for a title in this brutal league that you're in? If blank goes right for you, you'll be able to do that this season.
If we stay healthy. I think that's a big key for us, is us staying healthy. Because these guys, like I said, we got some older guys, they got some mileage on them. But I think as we keep growing together, I think we're going to have a shot. We're significantly bigger and significantly more physical than we were last year, which I think is going to help us in this league, especially trying to compete with a team like Vermont, and obviously the talent that Bryant always has. And then Lowell's really good too. Lowell really challenged us last year, and they got a lot of guys back. But I think when you see our bodies are different. We're significantly thicker, more physical, which I felt was something that, held us back last year and being able to compete. We got to that championship game, but to really compete to win it. Darnell was obviously a special player, but one of the smallest players in the history of Division I basketball. DeAndre was a skinnier forward guard, and LJ wasn't that big. I think we're bigger, thicker. And we're more physical the way we play right now. So if we can stay healthy, I think we'll be right there in this league competing for a championship.
I know at this time last year you were talking a little bit about your scheduling philosophy in non-conference play, and I feel like we probably got a good sense of what that aim is. I see a couple of Ivies in Princeton and Columbia, some Patriot League teams in Lafayette and Lehigh, plus Loyola as well as a local rival. Do you feel like that's sort of what you're aiming to be playing here on a regular basis here moving forward?
Yeah, listen, in this league, it's all about that last game, right? It's about getting to the championship game and winning the championship game, get to the NCAA tournament. So everything we do is going to try to prepare us for our league play. So we have, again, a really hard schedule. I tried to get some more. Being a New York guy, we used to play all the New York schools, the St. John's of the world, the Manhattans, and all those guys. So I like having that local flavor. So I tried to get some of the local teams back in the mix. We're playing Loyola, we're playing Morgan, we're playing Coppin, we're playing at Maryland, playing at Georgetown. So I think that's great for the community. But then we have a tough schedule. We got Princeton was Ivy League, number one in the Ivy League last year. We have to go to UNC Greensboro again. We're opening up at Tulane. It's going to challenge us. We have a really, really challenging schedule, which I think will help us get better. Whether you win or lose those games, it's going to teach us something about ourselves to get us ready for the America East Conference, and I think that's the most important thing.
He is Coach Jim Ferry. The season gets underway on Monday night when they travel to Tulane, and then a nice little homestand after that, 4 straight at home for you to get the opportunity to come out to Chesapeake Employers Insurance Arena and check out the Retrievers starting November 10th when they host Penn State York, and as Patrick alluded to, Princeton in there, Lafayette, Central Connecticut State, so a great chance for you to get out and see the Retrievers. Coach, we will be in touch. We will be out to see you during the course of the season. Appreciate taking the time for us. Best of luck this year, all right?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
That's Jim Ferry from UMBC joining us here on our college basketball preview show. A reminder that sports betting is coming to the state of Maryland, and on your phone, you're going to be able to do it mobily here in just a few weeks. It won't be long now before that will be an option for you. And PressBox is providing you some opportunities for you to get the best offers and sign-up incentives. Starting now, you can get a $100 pre-registration credit from my friends at FanDuel by going to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. The $100 credit is in addition to the new user promo that you'll get when they go live. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now to get your $100 FanDuel pre-registration bonus credit. That's PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Some quick thoughts on UMBC?
Very new team.
Yep.
I think I would hope a coach is excited at this time of year, like as he alluded to, no losses on the ledger or anything like that. But it is a largely new group. I mean, Jacob Bunyasith is back, obviously. That's one name that definitely stands out, as does sorry, I'm blanking at the moment. Obeng Mensah.
Yeah, right.
both of those guys obviously were pretty important to them last season. The neighborhood gets harder with Bryant coming in. No doubt about that. But I kind of look at them as a team that should at this point, when we think about UMBC, this isn't the UMBC of a decade ago where you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to avoid losing 20 games? This is a UMBC that when we look at what they've done in the league since Brian Odom showed up in 2017, 9-7, 12-4, 11-5, 8-8, 10-4, 11-7. There's an established level there. And, it's funny that, when you look up and down the roster, it's almost as if they've constructed like an all-star team from the Mid-American Conference. There's Buffalo, and there's Akron, and, there's a bunch of that. And that's probably the level of player that if those guys were, maybe 6 or 7 point a game guys in the MAAC, they're probably going to be a little bit better in the America East. So I think, the interesting thing there is it looks like they have options, and they're old. The downside, I think, to all those grad transfers is we'll be sitting here at this time next year, and it'll be an entirely new team again. But I do think that the schedule is largely manageable for them too. And so when not that it solves everything, but they're not going to go just get pounded game after game after game. That you could make a case. You can make a case that Tulane game is going to be the toughest game that they play all season.
Wow.
Now, really, the toughest game they play all season will probably be at Vermont.
Vermont, yeah, sure.
But
right.
They play Maryland, they play Georgetown, they play Tulane, and those are the only 3 teams that they're going out and basically playing bye games against. So to be at that level, and you're playing 13 non-conference games, and you're only playing 3 of those, and 2 of them are bus trips the day of. That's a pretty good situation to find yourself in, I think.
All right. As we mentioned, it gets underway Monday night on the road. When we come back in, next up on the hot seat will be Navy coach Ed DeChellis. We're going to give Patrick an opportunity to talk. We haven't talked at all about Maryland. We normally exclude Maryland from the college basketball preview show just to shine light on the local schools, but Patrick will be joining us every week this season, and so we'll get his thoughts on Maryland as well. And maybe we'll be catching up with Juan Dixon from Coppin State. I just have to be honest. There was a schedule issue there, but we're hoping that might play out before the show ends as well. So that's all still to come on our annual college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens is here. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, New Maryland basketball coach Kevin Willard sits down with Stan Charles and Glenn Clark to discuss the situation he inherited in College Park and how he plans to get the program turned around. Also, inside, we introduce you to men's and women's college basketball players from all of the teams in the area. And Bo Smolka profiles Ravens receiver Devin Duvernay. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. The Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com and get $100 off on your pre-order when you use the promo code TAILGATE. That's ginsugrills.com. Reserve yours today.
Join Glenn at halftime of every Ravens game for the Project Game Day halftime show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. We apologize in advance. There's not much we can do about his face.
If you have not been to Guilford Hall Brewery yet, you need to check this place out. It is a gem. 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. You're going to be blown away. You're going to say, this is here? Holy smokes. So many different layers to Guilford Hall Brewery. There's the upstairs area where you can host events, and they're regularly doing events. They do yappy hours. They host trivia during the course of the week. The downstairs area, they have an outdoor area as well. Bavarian-inspired menu, which is outstanding. Of course, all of the craft beers, which are all excellent, including the Guilford Hall Lager, which I highly recommend. Again, Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. GuilfordHall.com is the website for you to find out more. Patrick Stevens is here in studio with us for the college basketball preview show, which we do every year. We're going to chat about Navy here in just a second with Coach Ed DeChellis. Who have you seen so far?
Not a lot.
Yeah, they're doing more of the secret scrimmages
It's mostly scrimmages at this point. The only exhibition game I've been to was George Washington yesterday.
Wow.
They played Western Connecticut State. So
you throw out all the records when those two teams get together.
Well, it's funny because the new coach at George Washington, Chris Caputo, former Miami and George Mason assistant, actually grew up down the street from the current Western Connecticut State coach.
How about that?
So he felt it was an appropriate way for him to kind of start his career off by having that. So NGW won, played very well. Ricky Lindo probably didn't have his greatest game as we update some somewhat familiar names. But he's going to, I think, have a pretty good season for them. James Bishop, a Baltimore kid, is certainly going to have the opportunity to score a lot for them this year, and a name to keep an eye on because he was a guy that I didn't realize was even out at Kansas State last year. He redshirted, he was hurt. Maximus Edwards is from Long Island, is a guy that's going to play a lot for the Colonials this year. So that's a guy as a redshirt freshman who I think could contend for Rookie of the Year honors in the A-10.
All right. Next up on the hot seat, we continue previewing the area teams. Joining us now, he is the head coach at Navy. It's good to welcome back Coach Ed DeChellis, who is with us on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick Stevens. It's great to chat with you as always, sir. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Well, thanks for having me on this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Look forward to chatting with you.
Well, it's good to chat with you as well. Coach, obviously you guys, have been right in the thick of things for the last few years. Let me start with just the success that you've been able to have as a program at Navy. How have you been able to sustain it so well?
We'll see that come here in the next few months, Glenn, how well we sustain it. But, I think we've really I think we've done a good job. If I give my staff some credit here, that we've developed some depth I told them years ago, this is winning is hard. Winning at the academies, I think, is hard. And just because these young men and women have so much on their plates, for instance, this week we've got 12-week exams. That doesn't sound like much. Well, it is a big deal here because they're cumulative exams for the first 12 weeks. It's not just like we're having another test, just for instance. So we've been able to build some depth because everybody can't play well every night, and we've been sort of the Noah's Ark 2x2 kind of theory. Give me 2 at every position. So if somebody's not playing well, they don't have it that night, we can put somebody else in. And we've built our depth, and we've been pretty solid in that fashion. So that's really been the key for us. I think we've got good players. I think we've got multiple good players. I think we're pretty deep at each position. I think we're still deep at each position. We're just developing our second wave of guys right now, as we had 4 seniors that graduated. So now we're starting to develop the other group of guys who can come in and play, and I call them the second wave. Because there's not much difference in who starts and who finishes the game for us. We're pretty much alike. So I think that's been the key for us is building depth.
That kind of segs right into what I wanted to ask about the recent experience about replacing all league caliber guards. You did that just fine last year, and now John Carter Jr. is gone, and so I guess the question it's fair to ask is, Who do you feel like kind of emerges as a leading scorer type, as a lead guard type for you this season?
Yeah, fair question. I'm not sure today I had the answer. We've had a number of guys play pretty well, at certain times throughout the fall camp. And some guys that you've heard of and some guys maybe you haven't heard of. So at the point guard spot, Pat, we have Austin Inge is back from his toe injury. He had surgery in the off season. He's back, has some really good days for us, and then he'll bang up his toe, and then the next day we'll have to take off. Austin Benini's a freshman. He played really well in a scrimmage we had against Fairleigh Dickinson University 2 weeks ago. And then P.J. Roach, a senior who got spot time a year or so ago. Then he had knee surgery in the off season. So we have 3 guys at the point guard spot who've all played well at some point in time through the fall so far. At the off guard spot where John Carter was, local product Chris Jones has played better, more solid, trying to be more consistent. And then Mac McDonald was a freshman last year who didn't play much because of Carter, has played well and has made shots, has done a nice job and has elevated his game, along with a guy who didn't play at all last year either, Cam Summers, Greg Summers' brother. And he can really shoot the ball. He's athletic. He's long. He's a little different. And then Lai Reinstrom, who didn't play much last year, has made some baskets for us. He's a catch-and-shoot guy, stronger guard. So we've had some – and then Sean Yoder I throw back in here. I move him around. So we've got some guys, and I think it's going to be game by game who's kind of got it going. And who, as I mentioned to him the other day, consistency. You got to be consistent in practice. You got to be consistent in the game. We got to know what we're going to get out of you when we put you in the game.
You just mentioned Sean Yoder, and I wanted to ask a bit about your senior class in general with him and Daniel Deaver and Tyler Nelson and Patrick Dorsey. One of the things I think that you guys, one of the assets of being at the academy is that you can kind of keep that continuity going a little bit there year over year. And, you mentioned losing 4 seniors, and here's at least 4 seniors right there that probably are going to have a pretty big impact. How do you kind of assess, how that class is working together and working with your roster at this point, and just how valuable are those guys?
Yeah, Patrick, they are. I think that's when I started off the conversation was we were able to build depth. We haven't had guys leave. We haven't had guys depart from the program, which has allowed us to experience this depth in this senior class. We have a large senior class because they've all stayed together. They've all competed. They've all gone through the academy. They've done good things for us, and now it's their time. It's their team. Again, we had the same thing last year. We had Richard Njoku, John Carter, Christian Silva, Greg Summers. We had 4 seniors. That class really stayed intact. And this class is even larger, and they've stayed intact. They haven't left. Sometimes you get a sophomore, and you don't know if you really want to do this or not, and academy gets harder for you, and so they decide to do something else in their careers, which, everybody has to make their own decisions. But these guys in the senior class have stuck with it, have fought through the adversity, and I think that speaks volumes of them. So I think that's part of our depth and maturity. I think it's very hard to win here. My experience is very hard to win with young guys because they have so much going on in the hall as well. When you have juniors and seniors, you have a better chance of winning. And I don't care if that's at Navy or wherever you're at. Older guys trying to get old and stay old is really important. And so we've been able to stay older and not have to play younger guys. Like 4 or 5 years ago, guys like a MAAC McDonald who didn't play last year, or Cam Summers who didn't play, they'd have played a bunch because we weren't very healthy. And now we didn't build depth. And so they were kind of thrown into the fire, where now, they can take some time, they can develop, they can mature, and then we can play them when they're ready to play rather than just throwing them in there to the fire.
Yes, Coach Ed DeChellis from Navy. He's with us here on our college basketball preview show. Coach, the way you describe it, it sounds like, from the outside, somebody might say, well, hey, you lost a lot. But the way that you're describing it sounds like, right, but the system that we built, the program that we built, it feels like you have a comfortability that those next group of guys are ready to step in and keep that continuity going for Navy basketball.
Yes, I do. I am comfortable with our team. I'm comfortable with our roster. We have different guys, and now the key is to try to make them consistent. Try to put certain guys together who play well, who plays well together. Like you can have good players, but sometimes they don't play well with each other. And so now, as a coach and as a staff, we're trying to fool with combinations throughout practice. Who plays well together? What guys mix with each other? What guys have synergy on the court, both offensively and, most importantly, defensively? And that's the next step as we're trying to get to.
And I know the Veterans Classic has been a project that you've invested a lot in here over the last decade or so. And this year, obviously, another great doubleheader. You got Houston, a top 5 team coming in. St. Joe's bringing back a former coach at Navy. And Princeton, obviously, a name that everybody knows about. Just what are kind of your thoughts on this year's event, and just what should people know about that doubleheader coming up next Friday?
Yeah, well, thank you. The Veterans Classic is, I think we're in our 8th year now, and it's a tool, it's a game to honor our veterans, and that's most important, and then their service and their commitment to our country. And so we do some things on Thursday with the teams that are here. They do a military day. They experience a day in the life of midshipmen. We have a dinner for them on Thursday night. We try to bring in as many wounded warriors as we can to have dinner with them, so they can hear the stories of our veterans, and I think that's important. The game itself, Houston will be ranked 2nd, 3rd in the country, whatever poll you look at. So they're a very formidable opponent for St. Joe's, a local team in Philadelphia who we think will improve in the Atlantic 10, and Billy Lang wanted to come back and coach again in Annapolis at Alumni Hall. So we got a game that's very attractive. NBA scouts are all over several of the guys from Houston. So we'll have a big contingent of, I know so far we've got over 20 guys, 20 leagues or 20 NBA teams represented. And then Princeton and us is, Princeton's really picked high in the Ivy League standings, so they're expected to have a good year. We know all about their their program, great academics and winning tradition. So I think it's a really good field, and we're excited to host the 3 other teams. And we hope our community, if the community comes out and supports the event and see future NBA guys. And we've had several of those kind of guys come through here in the last several years that, you've watched, and now they're playing in the league. So it'll be a talented field.
And happens to fall on Veterans Day this year, which is kind of neat the way
Yes,
that
it
works
does.
out for the
Yes, it
Veterans
does.
Classic. Coach, you just referenced, young players don't typically play quite as much at the academy, and you got, the roster size is so crazy. But in addition to Christian Jones, who you referenced, a couple of local kids that are on your roster, and that's not always the case, of course, at a place like Navy. But I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about 2 of your youngsters, Mitch Fisher, who I know played a little bit last season, and then a newcomer this year from Mount St. Joe, Jalen White.
Yeah. So, Mitch is improved. He's in the mix, and he gets better. We're trying to move him around to positions. He's played the 4 spot for us, or power forward, however you want to call it. He's also played the 5 spot for us, which is kind of down low, but we bring our 5 away from the basket, and his skill set is that he can shoot the ball, he can drive the ball. We're trying to get him to match up against some slower guys where he can take guys off the dribble, or some guys that aren't used to guarding on the perimeter. So when he's at the 5 spot where Daniel Deaver plays, we're going to get him to the perimeter and the elbows and the top of the key area where he can pass and shoot the ball from 3, and then drive the ball, drive larger posts. And so we're trying to move him around offensively. And Jalen White's a young guy who we have high hopes for. He's an athletic guy. He does good things. He came from our prep school program, and he's still, like a lot of our guys, he's still trying to figure everything out. But he's got great upside, and hopefully he'll continue to work and get better, and we'll see him in action sometime soon.
Coach, I've been giving this to everybody today. The biggest difference for Navy in being able to compete in the Patriot League this season, if blank goes well this year, you guys will be right in the mix. What is that blank?
Injuries.
I've heard that from a couple of people, by the way. You're not
injuries.
the first.
Yeah, there's only so much tread on the tire, and we have always tried to limit. I try to really watch practice time. I truly, really watch how long we're out there, because I want us to be fresh in January and February. I think a lot of teams are one injury away from not being so good. Now, we are fortunate where we were able to overcome injuries last year. Greg Summers was out for a while. Richard Njoku was out for a while. Austin Inge was out for a while, our point guard. So we were able to overcome some injuries, but it just makes things a lot harder. So we can keep our guys healthy, and our athletic trainer Josh, and my strength coach Brandon Spade, and the things we have here to try to prevent injuries. I think that's really important. So we try to limit what we do on the court. Like, we do a lot of stuff now. Instead of banging all the time, we do a lot of dummy stuff where there's no defense, or we're running man-to-man offense, or we're running, stuff where we're not smashing each other. And so we've changed over the years to try to eliminate contact. Now, we still want to get after it. When you have those days we get after it. But I think we're all trying to make sure that we take care of our players as best we can, and eliminate and try to limit the amount of banging they have on each other on a daily basis.
I get that. I completely understand that, and hopefully
plus, if they get some coaching, Glenn, if they get some coaching, I think we got a chance.
That doesn't hurt. All right. As Coach mentioned, obviously the Veterans Classic is a very big deal coming up on the 11th. That'll be your first opportunity to see the Midshipmen this season. They take on Princeton, and that big Houston-St. Joe's game ahead of it. They open up on the road on Monday night at William & Mary. Coach Ed DeChellis, always appreciate taking the time for us. We will be in touch. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, fellas. Have a great day.
Take care, Ed. Thanks so much.
Ed DeChellis from Navy with us here on the college basketball preview. Patrick Stevens, your thumbnail on the Midshipmen.
I'm not sure if people appreciate just how good Navy has been the last couple of years. So
extraordinarily consistent.
So here's a thought. Navy has gone 24-7 in the Patriot League over the last 2 years. That is, those 24 victories are tied for the second most in any 2-year span for Navy in conference victories. The only time they had more was when they had 26 in 1986.
Maybe David Robinson.
Yeah, some
was
guy named
involved.
David Robinson was
Yeah.
roaming around Annapolis at that point. Now, in fairness, they're playing 14 league games for the most part for a lot of their history between the CA and the Patriot League, and they now play 18. So, I'm not sitting here suggesting that they're as good as those David Robinson teams, but there is a degree of consistency that they've had that I think it now earns them the benefit of the doubt when you're sitting there wondering, okay, well, how are they going to replace X and Y and Z? Well, you know what? They've replaced, M and N and O and P in the past too, and they figured it out. So I kind of look at them as, they will play defense and they will rebound. Ed will talk about how he doesn't want turnovers. That may or may not happen. That's maybe the biggest variable of the three. But they will defend and they will rebound. And by the time conference play rolls around, they will be a very, very difficult out. I don't know if they'll be the best team in the Patriot League, but I certainly would anticipate that they're going to be a top 4 team and be a very unpleasant team for folks to have to play, at least not when they're not stuck with one of their scheduling issues where, they get stuck playing a game right after their, midterm exams or something like the stuff that he was talking about earlier. Because, that academy, academic calendar stuff, it is real. And you can just about guess, that's probably going to be a day that things aren't quite as good, and they're going to have to slog their way through. But for the most part,
I believe we saw that against Towson last year.
Yes,
Right?
They got that right after finals, and they just had nothing in them at all. Yeah. And there's usually one of those games in February where they're in their 6-week exams, and it's just you hope that they can. If you're them, you're just hoping to get through it because the week is just miserable. So, in any case. I would expect Navy to be one of the top teams of the Patriot League this year. And, it'll be that senior class that largely drives the bus. I think Tyler Nelson, a player that when he was on last year was a really intriguing piece. And so I think that's a guy to keep an eye on. And a healthy Patrick Dorsey, I think, too, has a chance to really help them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Maryland because you'll be joining us again this season every Tuesday morning, and Maryland get things underway as well. They open up next Monday night at home against Niagara. Clearly, the story is, of course, the coaching change, but I find their roster to be really interesting, right? There's players that you can see in moments how good they're capable of being. Will they be that good consistently? And I think Donta Scott sort of stands out among that group, but I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting pieces to me on this Maryland roster, even if I'm not sure that they're ready to be particularly competitive yet this season.
Yeah, I think that when you look at Maryland, you feel like there's a starting 5 there that's going to be pretty good. Not necessarily top 25 good or anything, but when you look at Jameer Young and Don Carey and Julian Reese and Hakeem Hart and Donta Scott, that's not a bad place to start.
Sure.
And then you have to start figuring out, well, who can you get to? Can you get to 8? Can you get to 8 with that? And Ian Martinez, from all accounts, is having a pretty good preseason and had a pretty good offseason. The concussion last year, I kind of sensed that had slowed him down a bit, and that was the general sense that I've gotten from folks down at Maryland. Patrick Emilian, the St. Francis, New York transfer, St. Francis, Brooklyn, had played at Western Michigan. I think that is a solid piece that they will be able to count on, not necessarily for much more than a dozen minutes or so at this level.
Yeah, but they need that right now.
But just a guy that you can count on, right? And so who else do you got? And there's all sorts of guys that could be that answer. You just don't. Is Noah Batchelor ready to have an impact? How much, as much as Kevin Willard loves Jahari Long, and a guy that he's very invested in,
brought with him, yes.
Is he going to be able to help that much? Do we see a holdover like a Pavlo Zuba may emerge. Remember, how many times did Mark Turgeon say just in the month between media day, month and a half between media day and when he departed in the middle of the season, this was the youngest guy in Division I basketball 2 seasons ago. So, the international man of mystery, Ike Cornish. I mean, what do you expect out of a guy that didn't even play last year?
Not at all, right?
So you don't know. There's enough of that stuff that you just don't quite know. And so there's some size limitations, I think, that are going to get exposed by certain teams. Michigan, Indiana are ones that come to mind, among others, but those are the two that immediately spring to mind. So this is not like a team that's suddenly going to be a Big Ten title contender. But I think that between Willard's history, and this is very similar to Turgeon, there's a high floor to his teams typically. He's not going to have a team in all likelihood that's going to go lose 20 games in a season. So I expect this to be.
But you're alluding to what I was about to ask, which is what are the reasonable expectations, right? What's fair?
What's fair? I think a winning record is fair.
Okay.
I think that's perfectly fair. I think if you can put yourself in a position to make the NIT this year, that's a successful season.
Okay. Right.
I would consider that a successful season this year. This is very much a, like I just said earlier, like that starting 5 is pretty good. They can win some games. And you know what? The starting 5 last year was decent enough to win some games.
They won some games.
I think this is a team that probably isn't as top line as talented, but I think the pieces fit together a little bit better. You certainly don't have a 5-man this year that is limited to just simply patrolling the post and doesn't play defense or anything. And from a point guard perspective, I think you're probably staring at a situation where the aim there is not as much, well, let's just try to create something. Because no disrespect to Fats Russell, but that was his game. Was essentially, drive into the paint and hope for the best. Because his speed was basically his greatest asset. I think they're going to be a little bit better off in that sense, too. So I think a little more cohesion. And I think, too, start of an era, everybody's trying to make a good impression, all that sort of stuff. And you got a few guys like a Don Carey and like a Dante Scott where this is their last run, basically.
Yep.
So, the big question I think overall with the roster is, can Julian Reese stay healthy and stay out of foul trouble? Because that's, I think, their most valuable player.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. All right, last up today, final coach on the hot seat, someone that we've known for a long time, and he brings back a lot of talent, brought in some talent as well in the transfer portal to Coppin State. He is, of course, and as I stare out, I'm literally staring over Calvert Hall right now. Of course, one of the greats in Calvert Hall history is Coach Juan Dixon, and he's with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick Stevens. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Likewise, fellas. It's good talking to you.
Coach, how much is your life better when you've got like a Nenda Tark on your side when you get ready for the start of a basketball season?
Life is great, man. I tell you what, Nenda Tark makes our job a lot easier for the staff. He's experienced, but yet still young, when it comes to, him only being like a redshirt sophomore, I believe.
Yeah.
So, Nenda is well experienced. He's an extremely smart basketball player. He's another coach on the floor. And, all we've been trying to do with Nenda over the years is continue to develop his game. But from day one, he's always been a very smart basketball player.
I feel like this is Patrick Stevens one. I feel like that Glenn asked me at one point in the spring, like, who's the most impactful transfer of anybody in the area? And without blinking, I said Sam Sessom's at Coppin State, a guy that scored 1,700 points in his career between Binghamton and Penn State. That's not something exactly you glaze over. Like, that stands out. And I know from talking to you over the summer, you feel like the impact off the floor has been significant too. Just how much of a difference maker do you think he can be for the Eagles this season?
Patrick, I thank the basketball gods every day for Sam. I swear. I mean, you talk about Nenda making our job easier. What I've been searching for in a point guard since we've been at Coppin State is exactly what Sam brings to our team when it comes to leadership and commanding the ball club, just his presence. I love DeJuan Clayton. I had DeJuan Clayton for 4 years, been truly blessed to coach DeJuan. But when you get someone of Sam's caliber, not just his physical tools on the court, it's more of the mental aspect that he brings to our team. Just a level of toughness and grit and leadership that I truly believe is going to allow us to get over the hump this year. Now, we got to stay healthy. We added more pieces than just Sam, but Sam's impact on our team is huge. And I look forward to watching us, this season have a lot of success.
Coach, is there a follow-up to that? Is there an impact that goes beyond just what Sam can bring to the basketball floor? For a program like Coppin State to land an accomplished, not someone who wasn't getting on the floor, but an accomplished player from the Big Ten, does that raise, do eyes open a little bit, and do people around the country say, hey, what's going on at Coppin State? What do we need to know about there?
I mean, I would hope so. Because Sam had options. Sam could have went anywhere in the country. But when it came to Sam making a decision, it was a staff that he built the best relationship with. It was a head coach that he felt like understood who he was as a young man and where he comes from and where he's trying to go. I've been in Sam's shoes, and just Sam's leadership, he is a grown man. I mean, when you listen to him speak, the huddles after practice, and a leader is someone that can look at themselves and say, guys, I need to do better. Not just looking for others to do what they're supposed to do, but he holds himself at a high standard. And that's just something that we yearned as a staff, something that we needed. And I truly believe because of Sam's leadership, because of Ninda's growth and his leadership, that we're going to be in positions to do something really special, not just in our competitive conference, but in a non-conference. And we look forward to open up our season next week against Charlotte, and hopefully, we can play well, we can perform. There's no doubt Sam and Ninda's going to have a lot of success. But like I tell our guys every day, we got to continue to build the great habits. We got to be extremely disciplined, and people want winners. People want to be associated with winners. So we have to do our part. All the little things every day, all the little daily disciplines, that's hopefully eventually it can be a byproduct. A winning will be a byproduct of that. So I look forward to the season.
While Ninda and Sam are probably the headliners of this team, I look and see a lot of guys that were in that 10 to 20 minute a game range last year between Mike Hood, Justin Steers, Daniel Titus, Alex Rojas, Isaiah Gross, Greg Spurlock, a lot of guys that have the chance to come back and maybe take a step forward. Is what you're hoping for just a little bit more out of each of those guys? And is one or two of them maybe stood out quite a bit as having taken maybe more than just a little step over the course of this offseason?
Yeah, no doubt, guys. Our returners have gotten better. I literally can say Daniel Titus went home to Australia, came back the middle of May, and worked out with us 5 days a week every day for the entire summer. And you saw the growth of Daniel Titus. When it comes to Greg Spurlock, he's gotten so much better. Just commanding the team defensively, taking the next step. Isaiah Gross and Alex Rojas have been guys that we look at to have a huge impact on our team this year. Just Isaiah toughness, his experience, didn't get a lot of opportunities over the years. But I can tell you what, the Isaiah Gross that I've witnessed so far this preseason is going to give himself a great opportunity to play and earn a lot of minutes and have a huge impact on our team this year. When you have Sam Sessions after a scrimmage saying, guys, I want to be more like Isaiah Gross when it comes to my approach every day, that lets you know that we have every piece to this puzzle. And that's just the type of young man Sam is, but the type of young man Isaiah is someone that's going to bring it day in and day out, whether he's playing 30 minutes or whether he's playing 0 minutes. And those are the type of guys that you have success with. And Alex Rojas, has made huge strides. He's familiar with what we do defensively, which, you know, he was confused early on last year. Began to come to his own towards the end of the season. Now he's in a position where he's just out there playing basketball, not hesitating offensively, and playing off his instincts defensively. So, you know, when you talk about our returners and you talk about Cameron Blue, you talk about Justin Winston, you still have Justin Steers, Big Luca. We have a chance to do something really, really special. And our guys know that. Sam came to Coppin State to win the championship. He wanted to play with Ninja Tart, and here we are. And as a staff, guys, we got to continue to put these young men in positions to be successful. It's our job to help these young men leave a legacy.
Chatting with Juan Dixon, of course, head coach at Coppin State. He's with us on our college basketball preview show. Coach, you mentioned the schedule, and yes, it starts with Charlotte, and there's a lot of intriguing games, but as you know, the one that jumps off the page, of course, comes up in November, and that's you guys making the trip to Maryland. And that's not just because of your own history, but I think everybody knows the history between Coppin State and Maryland and who won the last time Coppin State traveled to play Maryland. Can you tell me about how it came about, you guys going back to Maryland, and what it is going to mean to you to be back there and coaching a team at the University of Maryland?
Yeah, man, I can tell you what, Coach Willard has done an unbelievable job reaching out to alumni, building relationships with the alumni, he and his staff. And when he got the job, you know, they presented the opportunity for us to come back to College Park. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had dreams walking up and down those sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I get an opportunity to do that. And I can tell you what, our guys, they know it's a big game. I'll lie to you if I didn't say I wanted to go in College Park and win that game. That is a huge game for our program. And you know, I feel as though, you know, you have a point guard like Sam Sessions that played in College Park for 2 straight years, has success there. He's familiar. So we have a leader that understands the approach he needs to take for us to be comfortable in that building. That's not going to be easy. They have a very good ball club. I'm sure Coach is going to have those guys ready to play the start of the season. But November 25th is something that is circled on my calendar. I will lie. I'll be lying if I say I didn't have that game circled. So I'm excited about that opportunity. And I look forward to going back on.
I really appreciate the honesty, by the way, because it'd be easy for a lot of coaches to be like, no, I'm only worried about Charlotte. I'm not thinking of it. I truly appreciate the honesty when you talk about that, Coach.
I mean, that's real. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, I envision, you know, myself, you know, being on the sideline.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I have that opportunity. So, you know, we're going to play a high-level brand of basketball. My guys are going to be ready to compete and run through brick walls. But, you know, like you said before, I'm not looking past any opponent. But come the day after Thanksgiving, you know, our team will be prepared to play a high-level basketball game. It's that simple.
Schedule-wise, I know last year you guys had a couple back-to-backs. I mean, there were some brutal elements, and obviously some of that is just a matter of having to go play for money, basically. This year, even though I'm not going to suggest this is an easy schedule, at least it's a lot of local games. It's not a lot of long trips or anything like that. How much better off do you think your team is going to be just simply not getting as worn out in November and December by what's still a challenging schedule, but, you know, at least there's some bus trips in there and day of trips and what have you?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. It's a challenging schedule, but like you said, it's going to allow us, I think, to stay healthy, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. But in the years past, we've traveled, whether it's West Coast, whether it's back-to-backs, 4 games in 5 nights. Like, yeah, we start the season off on the back-to-back, but like you said, we have a lot of local games. We are very fortunate, and we're grateful for the opportunity to play pretty much every school here in the DMV. So our guys are excited. We don't have to travel all over the country. It's a lot of money budget-wise. And we're just going to, you know, prepare as well as possible to have success in these non-conference games. But our guys are excited about the schedule. And as a staff, you know, we couldn't be more excited. You know, with the less travel that we have to do during non-conference season. And most importantly, just come conference time, we've competed against some high-level opponents, and hopefully it can prepare us to have success in our conference. That's what's most important.
Coach, I'll give you that because I've been asking everybody this morning the same question. You're putting it out there. You're talking about, you guys are there to compete for a championship. It's why Sam came. It's what the expectation is. And you've been, flirting with that. You've been very competitive in the MAAC the last few years. What's the biggest difference for this program? What has to happen for you guys to be able to take that jump and go win a league, going up against a behemoth like Norfolk State, right? Like, what is the biggest difference for this program?
Yeah, man. Coach, it took Coach a while Norfolk State to win MEAC championships. The MEAC is extremely competitive, guys. I can tell you what, going into my 6th year here at Coppin State, it's one of the most competitive conferences in the country. It's a tough conference. The coaches prepare really well, and we've made strides as a conference when it comes to moving up in the rankings. So, going into our 6th year, we've been there the last couple of years, like you said. We had some very good teams. We've dealt with some injuries over the years. Last year, our point guard missed the majority of the regular season, Jesse Zarzuela. So we was able to get him healthy going into conference play, and we made a run. Came up a little tired. So going into this offseason, we knew that we had to get deeper as a team to prepare to win the MEAC tournament. So, like I said before, I'm confident that we will play well, but we have to stay healthy, and we have to continue to become a close-knit basketball team in order to accomplish what we want.
It all gets underway Monday night when they travel to Charlotte to open up the season, and then the first home game 1 week from Friday, they welcome Mount St. Mary's to the Physical Education Complex, and you can go see them. Coach Juan Dixon, always appreciate taking the time for us. Best of luck this season. I have no doubt that we'll be seeing you, catching up with you as it goes on. Thank you for doing this morning.
Thank you so much, fellas. I appreciate it.
Coach Juan Dixon from Coppin State checking in with us here on GCR. Patrick, final thumbnail for the day. Your thoughts on Coppin State?
It's going to be the Nenda Tark and Sam Sessoms show. And if those guys create a formidable backcourt, then they're going to probably well exceed the 5th place projection in the MEAC. If there is injuries, or if you're in a situation where maybe the guys don't play as well off of each other, they're going to struggle. It's very much based on those two guys.
Yeah, to go as far as those two can take them.
I think that's the case. I think that, and I mentioned a number, like about a half dozen of those guys that are returning this year from last year that were playing in that 10 to 20 minute a game range. It would help if one or two of those guys could become a 10-point a game guy or something like that. But this team is set up for Sessoms and Tark to be the primary drivers. And if there's a late game shot, sometimes you're sitting there, well, who's he going to draw the play up for? Well, you've got a 50-50 chance of getting it right with this team. It's going to be those two guys that handle things. I mentioned earlier, Sessoms has scored 1,700 points in his career. That is a proven commodity. You look at a Tark who
and by the way, it's important to point out double digits at Penn State.
Double digits at Penn State. Tark was a 13.5 and 6.8 rebounds a game guy last year with 94 steals and, and 87 assists in 32 games. That's a stat stuffer right there. I think one thing that in a perfect world for Coppin, the one thing they really, really, really need to do better, they were a 29.7% three-point shooting team last year. They need to shoot the ball better from the outside. This year, especially since they were giving up 35.2%. That's going to cause some problems.
That math does not math.
The big question I have about Coppin is, and this is not something that gets answered, through non-conference play, which even though it's not as brutal, it's still challenging, and there's still a lot of games.
Yeah, you point out the back-to-back. There is a back-to-back to start the season.
There is a back-to-back to start the season. They will play 2 games by Election Day, and I'm not sure anybody else in the country does that. So
yeah, there are no tournaments early in the season.
There's none of that sort of stuff, and most teams are off on Election Day too. It's basically they sort of massage the rule a little bit. So they open up down at Georgetown, or Georgetown opens up that evening at like 8:30 or whatever. But I think that when you look at what Coppin did last year, there was just such inconsistency over the course of the year. They went and they had a great comeback against Howard, and they turn around and lose at home to Maryland Eastern Shore the next game. They beat Howard again, and they lose to Eastern Shore again. They beat Central in the conference tournament, after having dropped a couple tight games to them in early February. So, excuse me. Don't know if they can be consistent enough, but I think they certainly need to be able to shoot the ball better, particularly from the outside.
It won't matter at all, wins or losses, but I did appreciate the story that he told about Kevin Willard, and there could be some awkwardness there, right? Clearly.
Yeah.
The unspoken part of what we're talking about when Juan says, I envision myself like
being on the sideline. He's envisioning himself being on the other side.
Correct, right? Like there's an unspoken part of that. So it would be easy for Kevin Willard to say like, hey, that's a little awkward. The guy wanted the job and he's a legend around here. I'm not really sure that I want to, be doing something like that. For him to, be comfortable enough in his own skin to say, well, let's reach out to him. I still
and risk a 2-game losing streak to Coppin State as a program.
I wonder if somebody said, hey, there is a reason why Gary stopped scheduling Coppin State, right? Like I wonder if somebody in the program said something about that. But I tip my cap to Kevin Willard for stepping in and saying, hey, look, we're not going to all this other stuff. We don't care about it. I want to try to have everybody on board and supportive of Maryland, and if that can help out Juan Dixon, we're going to do something to try to help out Juan Dixon because, he's pretty freaking important around these parts. So, I don't know, respect for Kevin Willard for doing something like that. To your point, he probably won't feel quite as good about it should it go south come Black Friday. Probably will be sitting there saying, why did I agree to this? Why did I make that decision? Quick reminder, online sports betting will be starting in Maryland in the next few weeks. PressBox will be your source for the best offers and sign-up incentives. Starting now, you can get a $100 pre-registration credit from our friends at FanDuel by going to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. The $100 credit is in addition to the new user promo that you will get when they go live. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now to get your $100 FanDuel pre-registration bonus credit. That's PressBoxOnline.com/offers. We'll get a tidbit and tubular. Anything in particular that stands out for you that maybe we didn't get to today?
Not really. I think we covered pretty much all the bases.
It feels like we could not have covered much more. So I appreciate all your hard work. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Use the code TAILGATE when you go to ginsugrills.com, and you will save $100 when you order your Ginsu Kamado Grill, the perfect ceramic home grill or tailgate for grilling, baking, searing, smoking, all kinds of food. Again, ginsugrills.com. Use that code TAILGATE, and you will save $100.
All right, so college basketball tidbit for the college basketball preview show. It is one that has to do primarily with March because that is the only thing that matters. You play for 4 months, but if you don't get it done in March, you don't get remember.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about the teams with the most Final Four appearances in NCAA history. So there are 16 teams that have made 6+ Final Fours, 9 teams to make 8+ Final Fours. I would like you to name all 16, but I realize that's a lot.
Patrick's going to name all 16. I assure you of that.
16 teams that have made 6+ Final Fours.
Hang on. Can I go until I get it wrong, and then you finish it up for me?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Like
Hem and Haw for here for like.
Okay. All right. You want a second?
You want to try for
it?
number 1 first?
Well,
Who's number 1?
UCLA.
They are not number 1.
Okay.
They're on the list.
Well, they're definitely on the list.
Yes, they are number 2.
So then, it's one of 4 options, right?
Yeah.
It was either going to be UCLA, Kansas.
Kansas is 5th.
Okay.
On the list.
Kentucky.
Kentucky is 4th.
North Carolina.
North Carolina is number 1. 21 Final Four appearances.
Right. I was really guessing that in any order. Those are just the 4 schools that I'd separated in my mind. So
you're still missing one from the top 5.
Okay, so you went. Hold on, just to be sure.
I'm writing them down.
Okay, UCLA, Kansas,
Kentucky, and North Carolina were the 4 that I guessed first. At this point, I assume that Duke has moved in.
Yes, Duke has 17 alongside Kentucky, tied for 3rd.
I'm still going to say that Indiana is in this.
Indiana is in it. They have 8.
I will still say that Louisville is in this conversation.
Louisville also 8.
I will say that UConn has moved onto this list.
UConn is not on this list. They only have 5.
I know,
Final
but I
Four
thought that was actually
appearances.
enough. I thought that was enough to get him there. All right, well, I said I was going to. I got one wrong, so I got one wrong.
All right.
Patrick, you take over.
So you got 7 of them at this
Yeah.
point? All right. Well, Michigan State should be on this
Yeah.
list.
Michigan State is on the list with 10.
Okay. I would say that Michigan is on this list too.
Michigan is on the list. They have 6.
Okay.
6 Final Four appearances.
So I was off by 1 with UConn.
Yes, you were. You were off by
Okay.
1.
So we are now at how many teams?
9.
We
You
are
got 9
at
of the
we
16.
are at 9
yes.
teams. We're looking for 6 Final Fours. Gosh, there's a team I'm thinking of that has either 5 or 6. And I'm trying to remember how many extra Final Fours they coaxed out of that. I'm going to say, is Florida at 5 or 6?
Florida is at 5.
All right.
Just
then
on the
I get to
outside.
tag back in, right? That's how this
No, you
works.
can go
I get tag back in. Syracuse.
That would have been the next
Syracuse does have 6. They are in
Okay.
the top 16.
All right. Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
Villanova also 6. They are in the top 16.
I'm not confident in any of my they're all Ohio State.
Ohio State is a great guess. They are the highest remaining team that you had yet to name. They have 10 alongside Michigan State and Ohio State, both with 10 Final Four appearances.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is not on the list. They have 4, so they're on the outside.
Back to Patrick.
So what? How many are we?
We
up
are
to?
missing 4. We've
We are
got
missing
12 of them so
4
far.
of them, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
All have 6. All have 6 appearances.
All of the remaining teams have 6
Yes.
Final Four appearances. Okay. Let's see. Here's one that would have to dig in a little bit into the Well, how about Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is a great guess. They're on the list.
Good job.
Bearcats have
Not
6.
the one I was thinking of. That's a good one.
So that was certainly one that I had in mind there. Let's toss out another team that hasn't had a ton of late, but had a bunch early. Oklahoma State.
That is an excellent guess. They're on the list with
Well
6
done.
appearances.
Well
Oklahoma
done.
State.
So we need 2 more.
Mhm.
We need 2 more teams that have made 6 Final Fours apiece. I don't think they did it. I'm sitting here trying to cycle through teams that made X number of Final Fours here and there. You said Ohio.
I'm pretty confident it's not Nebraska,
It's
Proctor.
not-
I'm pretty confident that's
It is not Nebraska.
It is not
Not the
Nebraska.
answer.
Not
Yeah.
not Nebraska. A popular selection here. Let's see. 6 Final Fours for somebody still floating around in this conversation. I feel like we're probably talking about 2 teams that would have done most of their damage long ago.
I've got a modern one. That
2
I
are
feel
they're both have done it recently.
Okay,
They've both done it
interesting.
recently, yeah.
Interesting. How about
Very recently.
very recently?
Hey.
Well, that opens the door for Houston.
It does. Houston has 6. Sorry, Glenn. I know you wanted him to get one wrong. So
I really wanted to tag back in because I thought I was going to be able to get both of them. I feel like I might know what the last one is too.
The last one, perhaps Oklahoma.
Not Oklahoma.
Not
They
Oklahoma.
have 5,
They
I
have
believe.
5.
They have 5, yeah.
Arizona.
Arizona has 4.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I had thought about
Way
Arizona
too-
a little bit
way too confident. Way too confident.
But another team that has done it recently. Huh?
Mhm.
Interesting. Oh my, this is
I don't know how recent is though.
recent. Well, I'm
yeah.
assuming recent is within the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's definitely. I would think
essentially.
that would definitely qualify as recent. Yes.
So.
Oh, I've got a guess.
Let's see. Who else could we toss out there as a 6-time Final Four team? Who am I missing here? You know, I think Georgetown has 5. Georgetown has the one in the 40s, the 3 in the 80s, and one in 2007.
You know what? I was wrong. They did not do it recently. I thought they had, but yeah, it's actually been more than 20 years. So yeah,
Okay,
I was
wow.
wrong.
Changes
My
everything.
apologies.
So
my
it's
apologies.
not Oregon then.
It is not Oregon.
Oh my God.
Let's toss Utah out as a team.
Utah, no,
No,
not.
I
All right,
do.
well, they have 4. They have 4, but not 6.
Has not been recent.
No,
Seton Hall.
not Seton Hall.
Kansas State.
Not Kansas State.
But they've
Or
got
they have
Man.
4. They have 4.
Man, This is getting
So
hairy.
Now we're talking about a team that's probably done it sometime like in the 80s or 90s, basically.
Wake Forest.
And they've only got the one.
Oh, is that really their only one? I did not know that.
They've only got one.
Okay.
Somebody that went to the Final Four. How about Arkansas?
Yep,
Ooh,
Arkansas.
good
It
one.
is the Razorbacks.
Good
So they made
one.
back-to-back Elite Eights the past 2 years. That's why I was thinking, they had to have
did
snuck
not,
in.
Did not sneak through to the Final
But yeah,
Four
Arkansas
since
Razorbacks.
the Nolan Richardson, Corliss Williams, and
Yes.
Scotty Thurman era.
Two more teams with 5 appearances that you didn't name since
Yes.
we're like close. Do you
Sure.
want to try?
No, just
tell.
it's-
Georgetown and
we've been
Illinois.
doing this for 3 hours.
Well, Georgetown did get mentioned there a moment ago, and I counted the 5 too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
42 or 43, 82, 84, 85, and 07.
Wow.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. I am a little surprised you didn't go 16 for 16, though. I am a little bit surprised by that. All right, here's what's coming up. Totally Tubular. Tubular is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, the best place to watch and bet on all games, including the start of college basketball season next week. Football always. Next Monday night, college basketball starts. The Ravens, of course, are playing. That'll be the place to be. Reserve your spot by emailing events@sportssocialmd.com. Tonight, ESPN and the Mannings on ESPN2 for Monday Night Football. Bengals-Browns at 8:15. Game 3 of the World Series, Lance McCullers and Noah Syndergaard, the pitching matchup for the Astros and Phillies at 8 o'clock on Fox. 76ers-Wizards at 7 on NBC Sports Washington. NBA TV, Pacers-Nets at 7:30. NBC Sports Washington Plus and NHL Network for Capitals Hurricanes at 7. The USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw tonight at 8. Anything non-sports-wise that stands out?
Let's see. Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel.
You can't miss that.
No, you can't. Yeah, she just turned 50, and she has.
Congratulations.
She probably has like a new cookbook or something as well. I'm
Candles.
guessing.
I think she makes candles.
Is that what she's doing?
I'm not kidding. I think that's what she does.
And then on Fallon's going to be Winston Duke and Daniel Radcliffe.
Package deal. Yeah.
It was the Weird Al movie and then Black Panther this week.
I would say that's slightly more significant. No offense to the Weird Al.
Weird Al. I mean,
yeah, no offense.
on the Roku channel.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? That's
No,
All
that's
right,
it.
very
Yeah,
good.
that was
Patrick Stevens at Discourse, D1S Course. You'll still be doing stuff for the Post?
Yes, I will.
Looking forward to that. And I know you've been doing college football. Are you going to be doing both football and basketball? Or
Yes,
Excellent.
both of them. We'll see some stuff pop up here pretty soon, hoops-wise, here in the next week or so.
Excellent. Appreciate you as always, sir. We will be talking to you on Tuesdays throughout the course of the season. Thanks to all of the coaches who joined us today. Juan Dixon at Coppin State, Ed DeChellis at Navy, Jim Ferry at UMBC, Dan Engelstad at Mount St. Mary's, Pat Skerry from Towson, as well as Kevin Brodus. I just made him Snoop Dogg. Kevin Brodus from Morgan State, and also, of course, Tavaras Hardy from Loyola. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. On the program tomorrow, hopefully my voice. Hopefully it will have returned to be back. Although, maybe I just stick with this sultry, hello. Hopefully that'll be back. Santi Aldama, as we mentioned, who is now starting with the Memphis Grizzlies, will be joining us. What? Oh, that's your Halloween. That's what you're. Do you have a costume, or are you just going with the mask?
Just going with the mask.
Just going with the mask. Yeah. That's nothing.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you, Griffin. Happy Halloween. You can, thanks to Griffin, follow him on Twitter at Griffin_Bass. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Have a great Monday evening. I don't care who you're rooting for tonight in the baseball or the football. We will see you tomorrow morning. This has been the College Basketball Preview Edition of Glenn Clark Radio.